Chapter 277. Prince Wuxian's words could be said to be extremely sinister. From Lin Feng's point of view, Chao Wei, who was always gloomy and slightly irritable, was most likely going to fight with Prince Wuxian after hearing this. Dao Master Chang Lu and the others were also on guard. No matter what, if two primordial soul realm cultivators were to fight here, just the aftermath would be enough to raze Yu State City to the ground. Unexpectedly, although Chao Wei was still gloomy, he was not angry. He only said coldly, "It's just a small matter with the northern militant, there's no need to disturb the two martial uncles." At this moment, a voice passed through the void and reached everyone's ears. "How can I not participate in a bet?" Dao Master Chang Lu heard this person's voice and smiled bitterly. "Don't add to the mess." Dao Master Lan Ting smiled and turned to Lin Feng. "Dao Master, gambling is still the same." Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. Without Dao Master Lan Ting's introduction, Lin Feng could guess who the other person was just from what he said. The Qin dynasty's special guest, primordial soul realm cultivator Zhuge Guang. Most people were used to calling him Dao Master Gambling, but he called himself Dual Heaven's Sovereign. This person loved gambling. He could gamble anything and everything, but he also learned from gambling. He understood the changes of the 7 emotions and 6 desires to the extreme and integrated them into his own Tao. This person could be considered a big anomaly in the entire heaven primal world. Everyone knew him and he was destined to leave his name in history. Ordinary people loved to gamble. They gambled on money, on land, and when they lost, they gambled on their wives and children. But when it came to gambling stakes, from ancient times until now, no one could compare to this Master Zhuge Guang. This was because the most precious thing he had ever lost was his own primordial soul realm magic treasure. There was no one in the past, but it would be difficult for anyone to do so in the future. Although this Dao Master was a bit unreliable, his interruption eased the atmosphere a lot. Dao Master Chang Lu took the opportunity to mediate and finally appease Prince Wuxian and Chao Wei. "Everyone, the ancient desolate sea world is about to open. Please come with us to the North Wind Sea." Dao Master Chang Lu smiled as he led the way. Everyone in Yuzhou City followed behind him. Lin Feng led Xianmen Tianzong and the others, while the Northern Militant left Virtuous Prince and Chao Wei each led the Northern Militant Imperial Court and Tian Qi sect cultivators. The Azura Daoist Lord Huixiu, who did not make a move despite Lin Feng and Chao Wei's earth-shattering battle, finally appeared at this time, leading a group of Hu family cultivators and walking quietly at the back of the group. Outside the city, the cultivators of Purple Cloud Path, Celerita's Sword Sect and Sun Moon Sword Sect were divided into 3 groups, quietly waiting for their ancestors. Silently, after Dao Master Lan Ting and the others appeared, they silently followed. Even though the Yu State is 1,000 miles away from the North Wind Sea, for Lin Feng and the others it's only a short distance away. They each used their mana to sweep up the disciples of their sect and in an instant everyone had already arrived at the North Wind Sea. Even if they stood high up in the clouds and looked down, the North Wind Sea was still a vast swamp, with no end in sight. Although they knew it was a lake, from the visual effect, it really lived up to its name of sea. And the entrance to the ancient desolate sea world was said to be at the bottom of this lake. At the edge of the North Wind Sea, there was already a group of people waiting there silently. The auras of the 2 people at the front made people's hearts palpitate. One of them was a short and fat old man with bright black eyes, like a child. He held a domino in his hand and flipped it between his fingers. "Is this the gambling Dao Master, Zhuge Guang?" After Lin Feng stared at the short and fat old man, his gaze shifted to another person. Compared to Zhuge Guang, this person attracted his attention even more. It was an old man wearing a white robe with golden edges. He had white hair and a youthful face. His face was like jade. His expression was graceful, but there was a kind of king's aura. At a glance, Lin Feng could not see the depth of the old man's cultivation, but he had a clear feeling that the old man was stronger than Zhuge Guang. It was not just Zhuge Guang. Apart from the 2 of them, among the 6 primordial soul experts present, Huixiu, Dao Master Chang Lu, Chao Wei, Sword Master Flowing Light, Sword Master Glorious Sunlight, and Dao Master Blue Thunder, none of them could defeat the old man. This old man's cultivation is even higher than the others. He has already surpassed the first tier of the primordial soul realm, the realm of incarnation. Lin Feng had an idea, but his expression did not change at all. This was because he noticed that after the white-robed old man's gaze swept across the crowd, it finally landed on him. After the two of them looked at each other calmly for a moment, the white-robed old man nodded slightly and said loudly, "My great Qin dynasty is hosting the Desolate Sea Assembly today. Thank you, fellow Taoists, for coming. It is my honor." Everyone landed on the ground together. Sword Master Glorious Sunlight smiled and said, "Prince Anliang, you are too kind." Lin Feng suddenly understood the identity of this white-robed old man. The Prince of Tranquility, Shizong Yue, a prince of the great Qin dynasty and also the imperial uncle of the current emperor of Qin. In the great Qin dynasty, his position is extremely high and he is one of the core members of the royal family. Shizong Yue looked at Chao Wei and asked, "Are Old Lin and Old Xiang doing well?" The Old Lin and Old Xiang he mentioned were undoubtedly the ice and fire elders of the Tianqi sect. However, Shizong Yue's tone made it sound like he was treating Chao Wei as a junior. "Thank you for your concern, Prince Anliang. The two uncle masters are currently in seclusion." Chao Wei displayed the bearing of a sect leader and did not lower his status in front of Shizong Yue. He replied indifferently. Before Uncle Master Lin went into seclusion, he mentioned that he might gain something from this seclusion. After the two Uncle Masters come out, they will probably find some old friends to catch up. Hearing this, Shizong Yue revealed a smile. He looked Chao Wei up and down and said with a smile, "That couldn't be better. I'll wait for them." On the other side, Prince Wuxian's eyes flashed with a trace of gloom. He clearly did not feel that this was good news. After greeting everyone, Shizong Yue finally looked at Lin Feng. The younger generation will surpass the older. Sect leader Lin has been quite famous recently. Lin Feng looked up at Shizong Yue and laughed inwardly, deliberately taking advantage of his seniority. "Is this old man testing me?" His expression did not change as he said calmly, "It's just that the young people nowadays don't know how to respect their elders." As he said this, his gaze swept over Chao Wei's face. Right now Lin Feng still looks like a young man on the outside, but his background is too mysterious. Everyone in the world is guessing his master, his background, and even his true age. Shizong Yue deliberately took advantage of his seniority to observe Lin Feng's reaction, but he was blocked by Lin Feng's words. Although Lin Feng's gaze seemed to fall on Chao Wei, Shizong Yue could not tell who the young man was. As one of the oldest elders of the Qin dynasty, if Shizong Yue was considered a young man in Lin Feng's eyes, then it was simply unimaginable. And from another point of view, Lin Feng's words can also be extended to other meanings. "Don't take advantage of your seniority in front of me. I won't fall for it. If you dare to provoke me, I'll beat you up. Who cares if you're old or young?" In short, it was fine to listen to it straight or the other way around. Interesting. Facing Lin Feng's ambiguous answer, Shizong Yue did not get angry. Instead, he revealed an unfathomable smile. At this time, Dao Master Chang'o stood next to Shizong Yue. This time, the Qin dynasty sent 3 primordial soul realm powerhouses. The master's aura was completely revealed. Among the 3, there was no doubt that Shizong Yue, who had the highest status and cultivation, was the leader. After greeting everyone, Shizong Yue said, "Like the previous Baron Sea Assembly, the arena for the competition is still in the Hidden Dragon Kettle. Does anyone have any objections?" Lin Feng and the others looked at each other and shook their heads at the same time. The Hidden Dragon Kettle was a magic weapon owned by the royal family of the Qin dynasty. It contained a universe and opened up an independent space. It was a mysterious spirit space. In the previous Baron Sea Assembly, the Hidden Dragon Kettle was used as the arena. The descendants of various forces entered the Hidden Dragon Kettle to fight and compete. The Hidden Dragon Kettle had many miraculous uses. One of them was that there were many unique Dharma power restrictions in the kettle. If someone fought in the kettle and received a fatal blow, the hidden dragon kettle would automatically release a Dharma power restriction to block the fatal blow for the injured person. Normally, the hidden dragon pot grotto heaven was a place for the disciples of the great Qin dynasty to spar. They could go all out and fight with their lives on the line. The rewards were far greater than normal battles where they had reservations. Seeing that Lin Feng and the others had no objections, Shi Zhongyue flipped his palm and shouted, "Rise!" A small, exquisite, flat kettle with dragon patterns carved on it flew into the air. It looked like it was only the size of an adult's palm, but the Dharma power that flowed out from it was extremely powerful and intimidating. Just like in previous years, in order to encourage the young disciples to work hard, only those who obtain a certain ranking in the assembly can enter the ancient desolate sea world, Shi Zhongyue continued. The competition will be divided into the Golden Elixir period and the Foundation Establishment period. Every sect or family will send 4 people from the Golden Elixir period and the Foundation Establishment period. After drawing lots, they will compete in pairs. The top 16 from the Golden Elixir period and the top 8 from the Foundation Establishment period will be allowed to enter the Ancient Desolate Sea World. The Ancient Desolate Sea World also had its natural dangers. It was not a safe vacation spot. Those who did not have enough strength would instead be in great danger. Thus, there had always been only 8 spots for Foundation Establishment period cultivators. In reality, even if they entered, these Foundation Establishment period cultivators mainly needed the care of their fellow sect members from the Golden Elixir period to ensure their safety. Lin Feng and the others were already aware of this, so they naturally did not have any objections. At this time, Shi Zhongyue turned to look at Sun Luminary Sword Venerable. Your Sun Moon Sword sect disciples should participate in the competition according to the previous method. Everyone knew that the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples were in pairs. Under the combination of the Sun and Moon swords, their battle power would produce an effect far greater than 2. A pair of sword companions attacking together was the strongest battle state of the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples. However, this was clearly unfair to the others. Even if they also sent 2 people to fight 2 against 2, they would still be at a disadvantage against the Sun Moon Sword sect's combination swords. Thus, in the past Desolate Sea Assembly, the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples would participate alone. Lin Feng also knew of this practice, but he had his own plans. Thus, he raised a different opinion. I think that the rules can be changed for the Sun Moon Sword sect this year. Chapter 278. Shi Zhongyue and the others looked at each other and asked curiously, "What does Sect Master Lin think?" Lin Feng smiled slightly. The Sun Moon Sword sect is allowed to send 2 people to participate. Those who draw their lots can choose a companion from their side and compete in a 2-on-2 match. It's fine if they don't enter the top 16 or top 8 in the Golden Elixir period, but if they do, the 2 people from the winning side can enter the Ancient Desolate Sea World together. Lin Feng explained, if they fight after entering the top 16 or top 8 in the Golden Elixir period, the side that wins the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples will also obtain 2 spots, and the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples will retain 2 spots to enter the Ancient Desolate Sea World. Lin Feng looked at Shi Zhongyue. From what I know, the ranking of the Ancient Desolate Sea Spell Assembly is to encourage the younger generation to improve, and also because the Ancient Desolate Sea World is unstable. If too many people enter, it will cause the space to collapse. But even if all the Sun Moon Sword sect disciples advance, there will only be 8 more people. It should still be within the limits of the Ancient Desolate Sea World. Hearing this, Sun Moon Sword Venerable fell silent. If they could compete in a 2-on-2 match, the Sun Moon Sword sect would definitely have many advantages over fighting alone. Shi Zhongyue, Zhuge Guang, and Dao Master Chang Lu exchanged glances, but did not say anything. The Sun Moon Sword sect had always been on good terms with the Qin dynasty's imperial family. They were happy to see the other party's strength increase. The other primordial soul experts looked at each other and felt that this suggestion had both advantages and disadvantages. If they could win against the Sun-Moon Sword sect's dual-sword harmonious combination, then it would be equivalent to having one more spot to enter the ancient desolate sea world. This was undoubtedly a very attractive thing. The Dharma assembly was related to the reputation of each school. The disciples who appeared were usually the best in their own school. No one was easy to deal with. Who knew who their opponents would be if they drew lots randomly? It was not unheard of for disciples of the same sect to meet in the first round. However, the Sun-Moon Sword sect's dual-sword harmonious combination was famous, so people could not help but think about it. As the one who proposed this, Lin Feng had a calm expression on his face, as if he wasn't worried at all that his disciples would be at a disadvantage when fighting 2 against 2. Everyone present was a primordial divinity expert who had lived for thousands of years. They would not allow their disciples to fight a battle that they would definitely lose just because they wanted to compete with Lin Feng. However, they would not underestimate their opponents, nor would they overestimate them. Although the Sun-Moon Sword sect's dual-sword amalgamation was famous, the few Essence Divinity stage elders were also confident in their disciples. Even if he really couldn't defeat them, it would still be a rare experience and training. The few primordial soul realm experts looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Let's go with sect leader Lin's suggestion. Lin Feng continued, other than that, I apologize for making a fool of myself. I, Xianmen Tianzong, have 2 disciples from the Golden Elixir period and 3 disciples from the Foundation Establishment realm participating in the spell assembly. Hearing this, Shizong Yue, Chao Wei, and venerated swordsman Flowing Light all smiled. Lin Feng himself was very calm. He also had a smile on his face, and didn't feel embarrassed at all. Shizong Yue coughed dryly. It doesn't matter. We'll still draw lots to decide who's going to fight. 2 disciples from the Golden Elixir period and 1 disciple from the Foundation Establishment realm will be decided by drawing lots. Lin Feng nodded. That's good. Shizong Yue said, everyone, you can go and communicate with your disciples. We'll draw lots later. The few of them released their magic power, and their disciples landed on the ground. Other than the cultivators who were really going to participate in the competition, there were also many people who came to watch the battle, including many Yuaniing cultivators. There were even Qi refinement cultivators, who were usually the seedlings with the most potential in their sections. They were favored by their masters long ago and were brought here to broaden their horizons. The others were all in groups. Only Lin Feng's sect was relatively deserted. There were only 2 or 3 big and small cats. But the vast majority of people wouldn't look down on Xianmen Tianzong. Xiao Budian, Zhu Yi, and the others were now considered famous. The battle before the Sand Continent's opening ceremony had indeed made Xianmen Tianzong famous to a certain extent. Then, Xiao Budian and the others all had to thank their big senior brother Xiao Yan, who wasn't here at the moment. On Cloud Traversing Peak he fought the peak Yuaniing early-stage cultivator Crown Prince Chongyun. Although the course of that battle wasn't spread widely under the control of some people, many of the Celeritas swordsman sect disciples who were there at that time were here. There was still a lot of information that leaked out. Many times, the more secretive this kind of situation was, the more attention it drew. Of course, there were also people who were straightforward. A white-clothed girl arrived in front of Xiao Budian and the others at this time. She first bowed towards Lin Feng, who was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, and then her gaze impudently sized up Xiao Budian and the others. This woman was extremely beautiful. Her facial features were picturesque, but she had an extremely strong aggressiveness. Although she was incomparably ostentatious, she didn't seem overbearing or domineering. Only her gaze revealed a very obvious desire to fight. Xiao Yan didn't come. Tilting her head and sizing them up for a while, the woman in white was somewhat disappointed. But her gaze fell on Xiao Budian and Zhu Yi, and she still nodded her head. However, you two aren't bad either. She then glanced at Tunten, you're also not bad. Tunten curled its lips, turning its head to the side and mumbling, I just don't know if you taste good or not. The woman in white did not get angry when she heard this. Instead she smiled, you Taotai, you stole and ate so many Zhu Yuha from my cloud-traversing peak. I still haven't settled the score with you. Tunton bared its teeth at her. The woman in white had already turned around and left, waving her hand as she walked. Hope to run into you guys. The head disciple of the Celeritas sword sect Zhao Yan hurried over at this time. Seeing the woman in white, his face couldn't help but be filled with a bitter smile. The woman in white smiled without a care in the world and said, "Relax, I'm just going over to say hello, that's all." Zhao Yan sent the woman in white off with his gaze, turned around and helplessly said, "Eldest senior sister is just like this. If she was impolite, please don't blame her." Xiao Budian curiously said, "Aren't you the head disciple of the Celeritas sword sect?" Zhao Yan said, "Accurately speaking, I'm the eldest senior brother of the Celeritas sword sect's inner sect disciples. And above me, there's still an eldest senior sister, which is the one just now." Hearing Zhao Yan's description, only then did Xiao Budian, Zhu Yi, and the others know the identity of the woman in white just now. Tao Yaoyao, the head disciple of the Celeritas sword sect in the truest sense, the #1 cultivator in the Golden Elixir period. It's just that she's been in closed-door cultivation all these years, gradually being forgotten by people. Even within the Celeritas sword sect, some of the new disciples don't know that there's such an eldest senior sister. But in reality, Tao Yaoyao had long become famous hundreds of years ago, and she was the last personal disciple that sword Venerable Flowing Light took in before Murong Yen ran. Zhu Yi nodded his head. Tao Yaoyao, the Yaoyao from the Yaoyao of Peaches, dazzling her beauty. No matter if it's you guys or Xiao Yan, although you can contend against Yuanying stage cultivators with Golden Elixir period cultivation, it's only contend and nothing more. Zhao Yan swept Xiao Budian and Zhu Yi with a glance. Eldest senior sister truly killed a Yuanying stage old monster with Golden Elixir period cultivation. Xiao Budian's eyes lit up. Oh. Just as Zhao Yan was about to say something, a voice suddenly came from the side. It's indeed true, but Tao Yaoyao herself also suffered serious injuries because of this. That's why she hibernated for so many years, to the point that many people gradually forgot her name. The one who came was a young girl wearing a yellow muslin dress, looking at Xiao Budian with a smile. "Tianhao, it's really been a long time. The last time I saw you, you were only this big." She giggled and gestured with her hands, as if she was hugging a baby. Xiao Budian looked at her, his gaze slightly focused as he silently said, "Oh. But I don't remember what sister looks like." The yellow-clothed girl smiled. "That's natural, you were just born at that time, you were still drinking milk." Tunton suddenly said out of the blue, "He's still drinking milk now." Xiao Budian kicked backwards, directly kicking Tunton to the ground. His expression did not change as he calmly said, "You're a member of the imperial family?" "That's right, I'm called Shi Xingyun." The yellow-clothed girl smiled and said, "Speaking of which, I can also be considered your clan sister. It's just that I don't know, do you still recognize me?" Xiao Budian made an "oh" sound, sizing her up. "So it's Princess Xingyun, Shi Tianhao greets you." Shi Xingyun smiled, very naturally changing the topic. Looking at the somewhat awkward Zhao Yan at the side, she smiled and said, "With Sister Yaoyao's talent, it's rare to see someone in the Celeritas sword sect. According to her past cultivation, under normal circumstances, she should have already succeeded in forming her nascent soul long ago. But she just likes to find people to fight, fighting for fun." Later on, she ran into an iron plate, fighting to the death with an old Yuanying monster. She was really impressive, she really killed that Yuanying monster, but she also suffered irreparable injuries, even her golden elixir cracked. Even the Flowing Light Sword Sovereign was unable to treat such injuries. Sister Yaoyao could only stay on the cloud-traversing peak to recuperate. However, with such injuries, there is no hope for her to form her nascent soul. However, she is indeed powerful. Although her cultivation could not improve further, she has recovered to her previous level. Shi Xingyun slowly said, "This time, she came to participate in the Desolate Sea Assembly for a spirit herb called the Heaven-Mending Vine in the ancient Desolate Sea realm. It is currently the only medicine known to be able to repair the cracked golden elixir." She looked at Zhao Yan, then winked at Xiao Budian and the others. She is your main opponent in this desolate sea assembly. However, her cultivation is at the peak of the late stage of the golden elixir, unlike you, Tianhao, who already possesses such powerful strength at the early stage of the golden elixir. When Xiao Budian heard this, a bright smile appeared on his face. Speaking of opponents, aren't you one? Shi Xingyun's smile did not diminish. Tianhao, other than brother Zhu Yi beside you, there are 3.5 other opponents. I can only count as half. Tao Yaoyao counts as one. There is a pair of sword companions from the Sun-Moon Sword sect, the two of them together count as one. Shi Xingyun turned her head and looked towards the distant horizon. The last one has not arrived yet, but should be arriving soon. Chapter 279. The Dharma Assembly will start with the Foundation Building Cultivators competition before the Golden Elixir period begins. It's fine if that cultivator arrives a little late, as long as he can make it to the final competition. Zhu Yi said lightly, I have to thank Princess Xingyun for the reminder. Shi Xingyun turned around, tilted his head, and looked at Zhu Yi for a moment. Suddenly, he laughed and said, speaking of which, that person is quite similar to brother Zhu Yi. He's also a scholar. He was the top scorer in the imperial examination of the Great Qin dynasty last year. He was ranked first in the imperial examination. Zhu Yi's eyes flashed, oh. To be able to stand out among the thousands of candidates of the Great Qin dynasty, this person must be very knowledgeable. Even if we can't compete in Dao techniques, we can still exchange knowledge. Very good, very good. Shi Xingyun giggled, are all the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong so arrogant? I'll be waiting to see. Looking at her leaving figure, Zhu Yi tilted his head slightly and said silently, I don't think she's half. Lin Feng, who had been sitting with his eyes closed, suddenly smiled and said, the Great Qin dynasty's royal family is legitimate. Yuanying Chong Yun, Golden Elixir Nebula. Although this saying hasn't been completely spread, it's not a secret. He opened his eyes and looked at Xiao Budian, smiling, this sister of yours is not simple. Xiao Budian's expression was indifferent as he spread his hands, it doesn't matter. In my realm, other than my own brothers and sisters, I'm invincible. Master, you should at least have confidence in us. Lin Feng said leisurely, of course I have confidence in you, especially in you. Not waiting for a smile to appear on the little guy's face, Lin Feng continued, I'm especially confident in your gluttony and ability to cause trouble. Ah. Xiao Budian choked and immediately felt guilty. He saw Lin Feng looking at him with a faint smile, you guys stole the storm cloud wind beast from the northern martial royal court, right? Xiao Budian chuckled and pushed Tunten and Zhuge Fengling in front of him, it was their idea. I'm just following them to prevent them from causing uncontrollable trouble. Tunten and Zhuge Fengling rolled their eyes at the same time and looked at Xiao Budian with disdain. Xiao Budian laughed and patted Tunten's belly, don't worry master, the fur and bones are all in there. Not even a single horsehair is left. I used to think her eating method was too crude, but now it seems like it is quite useful. Xiao Budian grinned and patted Tunten's little belly. Don't worry master, the fur, skin, and bones are all inside. Not even a strand of horsehair is left. I used to think that her way of eating was too crude, but now it seems that it's quite useful. Tunten bared its teeth at him. Don't give me that. I haven't settled the score with you for kicking me just now. You were asking for it, Xiao Budian replied nonchalantly. Lin Feng ignored these clowns and turned to look at Yang Qing. The young man was curiously looking at the cultivators from the other sects with a slightly nervous expression. Before in Yuzhou City Lin Feng let the disciples go out to do their own things. Only Yang Qing returned to her residence after taking a stroll, making use of the last bit of time to figure out Dao techniques and practice spells. She was like a nervous examinee revising before going to the exam. Perhaps he himself knew that the little bit of time he had would not be of much use, but he could not help but want to make use of that time, even if it was just for his own peace of mind. Lin Feng knew that Yang Qing did not really want to participate in this desolate sea assembly. He might be curious about the ancient desolate sea realm, but he was still a little conflicted about competing with others. It was not that he was afraid, but he was not confident. Master can protect you for a while, and I can protect you forever, Lin Feng said indifferently. But think about it carefully. Is that really the life you want? Living under the wings of others forever, never experiencing wind and rain. Although it will be much less dangerous, it will also be much less exciting. Yang Qing took a deep breath, composed himself, and said softly, "Disciple understands. Disciple will definitely do his best and not embarrass the sect. It's not about losing face for yourself. It's not that easy to lose my master's face." Lin Feng looked into his eyes. Think about the Cloud-Water Cave, think about a certain person that you miss. Yang Qing became spirited. Disciple was wrong. Don't worry, master. I know what to do. Lin Feng nodded in satisfaction and sighed in his heart. Fifth brother's willpower. There is still a long way to go. But as long as I can succeed, it will be worth it no matter how much effort I put in. His eyes met Yang Qing's, and a Taoist formula was transmitted through an invisible bridge into Yang Qing's mind. Yang Qing quickly memorized the formula taught by Lin Feng. After memorizing it, he was a little confused. Master, these formula, Lin Feng said, this Taoist method can be regarded as a branch of Master's Taoist method. You will come into contact with it sooner or later. But if you learn it now, it will be of great help to improve your strength. However, how much you can comprehend depends on yourself. Yang Qing nodded, sat down cross-legged, and began to carefully comprehend it. At this time, the first round of drawing lots for the competition between the cultivators in the foundation establishment stage had begun. Dao Master Chang Lu personally wrote the name of each cultivator, and then put the names into a huge copper bottle. Then, the names were drawn in pairs to determine the final order of the battle. All the leaders of the major sects were watching together. In this case, cheating was impossible. Even if there was only a little doubt, the final result would be rejected. If one could really cheat, then it was because one had great ability, and the others had nothing to say. However, Dao Master Chang Lu clearly did not have any plans to cheat. The others also expressed confidence in the results of the draw, and unanimously passed. Although the Sun Moon Sword sect was allowed to participate in the competition as a pair, in order to avoid arousing suspicion, Sun Moon Sword Venerable only chose 4 disciples to participate in the competition, 2 in a pair. Therefore, including Xianmen Tianzong who had 1 less person, the first round of the foundation establishment stage competition would have 3 vacancies. It was hard to say whether it was good news or bad news. Of the 3 vacancies in the first round, 2 of them were Xianmen Tianzong disciples. Wang Lin and Yang Qing both vacated. Yu Hongyan was the only one who participated in the first round and won without much effort. The first round of competition quickly determined the final 16. Most people actually did not care much about the first round. In the competition between the foundation establishment stage disciples, only the top 8 could obtain a spot to enter the ancient desolate sea world. The second round of competition between the top 16 to the top 8 was the main show. However, the final result made the big shots of the various sects feel differently. Of the 16 people, there were 2 from the Purple Sky Dao, 2 from the Skypon sect, 2 from the Hua family, and 1 from the Celeritas Sword sect. The Sun Moon Sword sect's dual sword harmony was indeed overbearing. The 2 pairs of 4 people all advanced to the top 16. Although they took up 2 spots, considering that Sun Moon Sword Venerable only sent these 4 people to participate, it was equivalent to everyone advancing to the top 16. In the first round of competition, the Sun Moon Sword sect's pair also displayed superior strength. Although the opponents they met were all from the same sect, 2 against 2 was not the Sun Moon Sword sect's match at all. Not mentioning the difference in strength, just the level of tacit understanding, the temporary combination could not compare to the sword companions who were often together. On the other hand, Lin Feng's Xian Men Sky sect had 3 people participating in the competition, and all 3 of them advanced. Although it was also a 100% success rate of advancing, it didn't seem very convincing. After all, Wang Lin and Yang Qing both got a bye and advanced directly. It couldn't help but make others secretly scold them for getting lucky. What was slightly out of the ordinary was that only 2 people from the Great Qin dynasty's officials entered the top 16. But this was also within reason. After all, in the first round, they were very unlucky to fight amongst themselves. 2 Great Qin dynasty cultivators were drawn together, and only one could advance. That competition could also be considered the highlight of the first round. Both sides displayed their strong points, both with exceptional strength, making many people feel regretful. If they encountered cultivators from other sects, most likely it would be them who eliminated their opponents and then both advancing. After the first round of competition, there was no rest. Immediately the second round of drawing lots began. The rules of the Desolate Sea Assembly were that after every round of competition, lots would be drawn anew. No one could predict who they might encounter in the next round. In Lin Feng's view, this kind of model has its pros and cons. It all depends on the strength of their supervision. If no trickery occurs, then this kind of rule can be considered to be relatively fair. During the first round of drawing lots, Lin Feng noticed that Wang Lin's gaze was tightly fixed on the copper bottle. When the result of him getting a bye was drawn, although Wang Lin's expression did not change, his gaze revealed disappointment. Lin Feng secretly laughed, knowing that Wang Lin was waiting to teach that Hua family's 17th young master Hua Chen a lesson. Right at this time, Wang Lin and his opponent were already drawn. The result was not Hua Chen, but a Great Qin dynasty imperial family disciple. And Hua Chen's opponent was the sole remaining Celeritas sword sect disciple. Looking at the somewhat disappointed Wang Lin, Lin Feng patted his shoulder. "Keep your mind calm, don't let others affect you." Wang Lin nodded his head. After a moment of silence he said in a low voice, "I want to stop him outside of the top 8, thoroughly shattering his hopes." Lin Feng turned his head to look. The coldness in Wang Lin's eyes made him tremble a bit. Lin Feng couldn't help but start praying for Hua Chen in his heart. "Brat, you're screwed." He thought for a moment, the corners of his mouth revealing a smile. "No matter what round you meet him in, the hidden dragon pot's defense mechanism will activate. But after entering the ancient desolate sea world, it will be different." Wang Lin's eyes immediately lit up, the corners of his mouth also revealing a smile. "Master is right, disciple now suddenly hopes that he can smoothly advance to the top 8. Lin Feng smiled. "Don't worry about others first, you brat, first charge into the top 8 for master." "Don't worry, master," Wang Lin said, already leaping up, jumping towards the mouth of the hidden dragon pot. The hidden dragon pot floating in the air is still only the size of a person's palm, but Wang Lin's body rapidly shrunk after flying to the mouth of the pot, finally becoming like a grain of sand falling into the hidden dragon pot. And his opponent also similarly entered the hidden dragon pot. Chapter 280. The hidden dragon pot floated in the air, projecting a light screen from the pot's mouth, showing the battle process inside. After the first round of eliminations, the remaining people were the cream of the crop. Lin Feng and the others were also somewhat interested. Silently, they watched the competition process. After the competition, a group of elders would also comment on the performance of their disciples. To be able to receive the comments and guidance of their sect's primordial spirit ancestors was a very precious opportunity, even for these proud sons of heaven who usually received preferential treatment in their sections. This was also a great reward for them from participating in the Desolate Sea Assembly. When the other disciples heard the comments of their primordial spirit ancestors, it was also a rare reward. Even if they could not enter the ancient Desolate Sea world, it was still a worthwhile trip. Lin Feng watched as Wang Lin fought with someone inside the hidden dragon pot. Both sides were evenly matched, and he could not help but laugh in his heart. Each of his disciples had a different fighting style. Zhu Yi and Yu Hongyan were the same kind of people. When they started, they used big moves. They never pretended to be pigs to eat tigers. When a lion hunts a rabbit, it uses its full strength. It uses the simplest and most direct method to end the battle and eliminate the opponent. When fighting with them, your only choice was to also use your full strength from the start. Everyone would use big moves and meet on a narrow path, and the strong would win. If you wanted to preserve your strength at the start and keep your trump cards, then there was a high chance that you would not be able to use your trump cards until your death. In the end, you would lose a good hand in your own hands, and you would lose incomparably sullenly. Xiao Yan, on the other hand, was someone who liked to hold back. If he could use 30% of his strength to defeat his opponent, he would not use 40% of his strength. He hid his true strength in front of most people and suddenly released it when necessary, shocking the entire audience. In Lin Feng's heart, he liked to pretend and counterattack. He loved to do that the most. As for Xiao Budian, that brat, whether he pretended to be a pig to eat tigers or revealed his fangs from the start depended entirely on his mood. It was hard to say. In other words, it was also very unreliable. As for Yang Qing, this young man had too little experience in fighting with others. Lin Feng was still a little unsure, but judging from his visual observation, he was the spring type, striking only after the enemy had struck. Wang Lin was also an expert at pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. However, this was mainly because his current cultivation was slightly lower. Most of the time, the enemies he faced were stronger than him. This forced him to secretly accumulate his strength and then find the right opportunity to kill them in one strike, causing them to die with hatred. Now, Wang Lin's opponent clearly didn't need him to use his full strength, but for some unknown reason, Wang Lin held back his strength. He would occasionally play around with his opponent, and after a long stalemate, he took advantage of his opponent's carelessness and won. When Wang Lin came out of the hidden dragon pot, Hu Chen brushed past him and said with a sneer, "Not much? I heard that you didn't perform so badly in the Sand Continent. Were you deliberately hiding your strength? Or could it be that you were actually very weak at that time and relied on external forces such as magic tools and talismans to support you?" Wang Lin glanced at him and said calmly, "I sincerely hope that you will also enter the top 8. Hu Chen laughed coldly. Wang Lin naturally wouldn't be doing this for his own good, but hinted that he would only have the qualifications to fight him after entering the top 8. "You don't have to worry about this." Hu Chen snorted, "I originally thought that there would be some experts in the royal family, but now it seems that they are too useless." Following behind Wang Lin, the defeated member of the royal family heard this and glared at him angrily. Hu Chen laughed coldly and ignored them. At this time, a young man wearing a bright yellow robe walked over expressionlessly. When the defeated member of the royal family saw him, his face instantly revealed a look of fear. The young man in the yellow robe didn't say a word and suddenly slapped out, directly knocking the member of the royal family to the ground. Wang Lin and Hu Chen's expressions changed at the same time and they looked at the young man in the yellow robe. The young man in the yellow robe also looked at them and suddenly broke into a smile. "My name is Shi Shaoqian, I will have to ask for your guidance later." When he said the last few words, his voice was very soft and his eyes flickered with a strange light, moving people's hearts. Hu Chen's expression became serious. The Shi Shaoqian in front of him had red lips and white teeth. Under the appearance of an extraordinarily handsome young man hid a power that even he, who was used to seeing blood, felt his heart palpitate. Even the most ferocious and strongest Foundation establishment demon general that he had killed before was not this terrifying. Hu Chen had only experienced this kind of feeling from demon commanders who had formed their demon cores, but the Shi Shaoqian in front of him had undoubtedly not formed his golden elixir and was still a Foundation establishment cultivator. On the other hand, Wang Lin's expression was normal as he glanced at Shi Shaoqian. "There will be a chance." Shi Shaoqian smiled, revealing his snow-white teeth, and lightly clenched his teeth, "Of course." Wang Lin nodded and immediately walked back. Xiao Budian and Yu Hongyan came up to greet him. The little guy said with a smile, "Congratulations on returning victorious third senior brother." "Brat, don't make fun of me." A faint smile appeared on Wang Lin's face. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly noticed that someone was looking at him from the side. Wang Lin looked over and saw that it was a handsome young man dressed in white. Based on his attire, he was a disciple of the Heaven Pools sect. When the white-clothed young man saw Wang Lin look over, he couldn't help but smile. Fang Zhong of the Heaven Pool sect, I was originally quite interested in you, but now I suddenly have no interest. Everyone says that you, the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong, are invincible in fights of magical powers within the same realm. I've never believed in rumors, I only believe in what I see with my own eyes. Fang Zhong's expression was indifferent. I never underestimate my opponents, but I also don't overestimate them. I can see that you were holding back in that fight, but if you didn't hold back enough, then I really have no interest in you. Fang Zhong's gaze fell on Yu Hongyan, who was beside Wang Lin, and he suddenly revealed a smile. However, this smile seemed rather sinister. I'm actually more interested in the person beside you. He slightly emphasized the word interested, appearing rather frivolous. He looked at Yu Hongyan, smiled, and said, she's a bit fierce, but she's really a beauty. Yu Hongyan's sword-like eyebrows gradually straightened. The little guy waved his hand at her, turned his head to look at Fang Zhong, and said very seriously, do you want to die? Fang Zhong was speechless. He wanted to retort, but when he felt the terrifying waves of magical power coming from the little guy's body, he could only forcefully swallow his words. You better pay attention to your words. This isn't a place for you to behave atrociously. At this time, another disciple of the Heaven Pool sect stood behind Fang Zhong. His powerful aura forcefully withstood the pressure brought by the little guy. Impressively, he was a cultivator of the Golden Elixir period. His aura was flawless, and his cultivation was in the late stage of the Golden Elixir period. Heaven Pool sect's Mujihai. The person who came stared at the little guy and coldly said, my junior brother can say whatever he wants to say. Who are you to control him? Do you think that you can be lawless just because you have the support of your master? Before you act atrociously, you should clearly see that there are some people you can't afford to provoke. The little guy did not care at all, and lightly said, I will take responsibility for the words I said. It's best if you have the ability to take responsibility for the words someone said. He stared at Fang Zhong. I'll say one thing right now. If you dare to say anything dirty to my senior sister again, you're a dead man. If you don't believe me, then try it. Being lectured by a child who looked no older than 11 or 12 years old, Mu Jihai and Fang Zhong felt a bit embarrassed. Coming from the Heaven Pool sect, they had always been able to walk sideways in the northern snowy plains. Mu Jihai stopped Fang Zhong, and angrily laughed, oh, then I really have to try. You, halfway through his words, he was suddenly interrupted by someone, Junior Brother Mu, bring Junior Brother Fang back. The next round of the competition is about to begin. Mu Jihai and Fang Zhong simultaneously shut their mouths and hatefully looked at the little guy. They simultaneously returned to the Heaven Pool sect's camp and stood behind a young man. That young man politely smiled and nodded towards the little guy and the others. However, the little guy could feel a bit gloomy from the other party's smile. He slightly frowned, and at this time, a rough voice suddenly sounded beside him, that's the most outstanding disciple of the Heaven Pool sect's younger generation, Song Qingyuan. He's the most sinister and cunning, a smiling tiger. The little guy, Wang Lin, and Yu Hongyan turned their heads to look. What appeared in front of them was a high-spirited large man dressed in a different race's clothing. His stature was as tall as Jiayu's in human form, and his body was flourishing with vitality. He was not the slightest bit inferior to Jiayu when he was still in the Demon Commander realm. My name is Du Kun, and I come from the Northern Militant. The foreign race man laughed straightforwardly, the enemies of the Heaven Pool sect are my friends. The little guy's eyeballs spun around, and he laughed, yeah, friends, friends. I really like your black cloud howling wind beasts, can you give me a few? Du Kun laughed, you have good eyesight, my clan's black cloud howling wind beasts are known as the most durable spirit beast mounts in the divine land. Yeah, yeah. The little guy repeatedly nodded his head, a sentence was already at the tip of his mouth, but he forcefully swallowed it back, the taste is also very good. On this side, the little guy was trying to get the other party's horse. On the other side, within the dragon concealing pot, Hu Qin had already finished his battle, and laughed loudly. "How can a greenhouse flower like you compare to me who has experienced mountains of corpses and seas of blood?" His opponent was called Chu Xinjun, and was the only remaining Celeritas Sword Sect Foundation establishment stage disciple after entering the top 16. At this moment, his face was ashen, and he didn't dare to look at the expressions of his sect elders. Chu Xinjun's defeat indicated that the Celeritas Sword Sect's Foundation establishment stage disciples were completely annihilated, and not a single person entered the top 8. From top to bottom of the Celeritas Sword Sect, everyone's expressions were ugly. Only Celeritas Sword Lord's expression was normal, without the slightest change. Azura Lord Huaxiu's face also didn't have any complacent expression. Lord Changlu lightly sighed and said, "Next round, Xianmen Tianzong Yang Qing against Tianqi School's Fang Zhong." In the Tianqi School camp, Fang Zhong coldly laughed. "Within Xianmen Tianzong's group of people, this is the most boring opponent. I'll crush him first, then find the other two to slowly settle the score." Yang Qing also finished his meditation at this time, silently standing up from the ground. His movements were slightly stiff. In the eyes of the primordial spirit big shots, they all secretly shook their heads. How could they not see that Yang Qing was a bit nervous? Let's not talk about his cultivation level first, this mentality was very bad. Lin Feng looked at the silent Yang Qing, the corners of his mouth instead revealing a smile. Chao Wei was expressionless, his gaze sweeping past the smile on Lin Feng's mouth, suddenly opening his mouth and saying, "Lin Feng, do you dare to make a bet with me?" Chapter 281. Bet? Lin Feng looked indifferent and said indifferently, "What do you want to bet?" Chao Wei said, "Naturally, we want to bet on who will win between the disciples of our two families." The surrounding primordial soul experts became interested when they heard this, and all their attention was focused on Lin Feng and Chao Wei. Dao Master Lan Ting frowned slightly, and Northern Militant Zhuxian Prince even scolded, "Chao Wei, you're the master of a sect, but you're a person who has cultivated the primordial soul." Although Xianmen Tianzong had been in the limelight recently, these primordial spirit big shots would not be moved by rumors. They only believed in the facts they saw with their own eyes. They could all see Yang Qing's current state. Chao Wei was clearly picking on the weak one to bully. Chao Wei ignored Prince Zhuxian's doubts and said indifferently, "He can choose not to accept my bet." Hearing that there was a bet, Zhuge Guang was the most excited person, but at this time, he also frowned slightly. If Lin Feng did not accept Chao Wei's bet, it was clear that even he, as a master, was not optimistic about Yang Qing. At Lin Feng's and Chao Wei's positions, there is no longer a need to prove anything, so there is no problem of face or fighting spirit. It's just that if Lin Feng tacitly admits defeat, it will damage his own family's morale, and even more so, it will deal a blow to Yang Qing's already weak confidence. The embankment of 1,000 miles collapsed because of an ant hole. A small mistake might be the beginning of the rise of the celestial sect of wonders being interrupted. Shi Zongyue looked at Lin Feng with interest, wanting to see how he would respond. Lin Feng was silent for a moment and said, "You and I bet our disciples for fun. What's the difference between this and treating them like fighting dogs?" Chao Wei said without hesitation, "The bet we win in the end belongs to the winning disciple." At this point, Lin Feng had no choice but to respond. He looked up at Chao Wei and said, "According to what you said, you seem to have taken a fancy to something in my hand on behalf of your disciple?" "Yes." Chao Wei nodded calmly. He didn't try to hide anything and said straightforwardly, "I heard that you have a strange fruit in your possession. It's called the icy fruit of fire. If Fang Zhong wins, we'll use this as a wager. What do you think?" Lin Feng's expression did not change, but his pupils contracted slightly. He was bewildered. How did this guy know that I have a frosty fire ice solid? The fiery ice fruit was a rare treasure that Lin Feng had obtained through the system's lottery when he had just formed his gold core. It was an extremely cold fruit that grew on the fiery wood in extremely hot places. This fruit had both hot and cold characteristics. When it encountered extreme cold, it would turn cold air into burning flames. The colder it was, the hotter it would be. When it encountered extreme heat, it would be the exact opposite. It would turn fire into ice. The hotter it was, the colder it would be. This item had only fallen into Lin Feng's hands once, and that was when he was searching for the living soil. He had used it in order to enter the 100 Herbs Ancestors' secret pill room on the eternal spring peak of the 100 Herbs sect. Other than that, Lin Feng had never used this rare treasure again. After using the frosty fire ice solid, it might leave behind a unique aura of spiritual energy. But logically speaking, it shouldn't take long for it to dissipate. Lin Feng pondered. Moreover, when the Gunmetal Tiger King attacked the mountain, Nanhua and I joined in the fun. Together with the landlord, the 100 Herbs Ancestor, we turned the eternal spring peak and the secret pill room into ruins. Chao Wei had cultivated his primordial spirit and his transcendence energy was extremely high. Perhaps he still had the ability to excavate the remaining aura of spiritual energy from the ruins. But it definitely couldn't be too long. Otherwise, the aura of spiritual energy would naturally dissipate between heaven and earth. In other words, not long after Lin Feng and the others left, Chao Wei went to the Eternal Spring Peak. The problem was that the Eternal Spring Peak was located at the southernmost part of the Great Hengduan mountain range in the south of the Divine Land. Chao Wei was the sect leader of the Celestial Pool sect in the Arctic snowfield. The two of them, one in the north and one in the south, had to cross almost the entire Divine Land. Why would Chao Wei go to the Great Hengduan mountain range for no reason? However, a strange item like the frosty fire ice solid was indeed a rare treasure for the cultivators of the Heavenly Pools sect who cultivated both ice and fire. A lot of thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind, but they were all things that happened in an instant. He looked at Chao Wei, flipping his palm and a half-blue half-red fruit appeared in his palm. It is precisely the corporeal fire ice. Since you want my frosty fire ice solid, then your bet will also be decided by me. Lin Feng said slowly, as if he had made a great decision. Chao Wei nodded, of course. Lin Feng said, I have long heard that the Heavenly Pools sect produces a kind of spiritual spring called the Frosty Ice Dew. I want this thing for my disciple. Chao Wei was just about to speak when Lin Feng interrupted him and said slowly, in terms of quantity, I want 100 drops. Shi Zongyue's mouth twitched. The others shook their heads slightly. Dao Master Lan Lei and Prince Zuxian smiled at the same time. Everyone sighed. Lin Feng really dared to ask. The Frosty Ice Dew was famous all over the world. It was the treasure of the Heavenly Pools sect. Even within the Heavenly Pools sect, only a few people could enjoy it. The total annual production was only a dozen drops. But Lin Feng asked for nearly 10 years' worth of production. Even though the Celestial Pools sect will also store frost dew, but taking into account the normal consumption of daily cultivation, the storage is also extremely limited. Lin Feng's 100 drops will basically empty out the Celestial Pools sect's current storage of frost dew. Chao Wei frowned slightly, the value of the bet is completely unequal. Are you deliberately acting shamelessly to avoid the battle? Lin Feng was expressionless and did not speak, as if he had acquiesced. Okay, I'll bet with you. Chao Wei pondered for a moment and said with emotion. He raised his hand and a cloud of ice mist floated in the air. Its specific shape could not be seen. It was like a dream, but it was a magic weapon of his. In the ice mist, many tiny water droplets that looked like ice crystals could be vaguely seen floating and sinking. It was the frosty ice dew that Lin Feng asked for as the bet. Now, do you dare to bet? Chao Wei stared intently at Lin Feng. Lin Feng sighed and did not say anything. He threw his hand and the frosty ice reality also flew into the air, floating in the air. Everyone thought that Lin Feng was at his wit's end and had been forced into a corner by Chao Wei. They did not know that Lin Feng was sneering in his heart at this moment. Bet with me. Lose so much that you will have to wear your pants. He sent a telepathic message to Yang Qing, silly boy, don't be so conflicted. The new Dao technique that I've taught you doesn't mean that you have to display it in this Dharma assembly. With your current cultivation, it's not difficult for you to defeat your opponent. Remember, you are very strong, stronger than you think. Hearing Lin Feng's words, Yang Qing's body trembled. She looked at Lin Feng and nodded. Her state of mind gradually calmed down. The other primordial spirit realm big shots also noticed Yang Qing's change. They all clicked their tongues in wonder. Is this considered a brave man with a high reward? Hearing that there is a reward of 100 drops of frosty ice dew, he suddenly has a fighting spirit? That's not right. This boy is obviously completely relaxed. It does not look like his fighting spirit has been aroused. Could it be that the master of Xian Men told him that it does not matter even if he loses? Only Chao Wei's gaze moved between Lin Feng and Yang Qing. He had a bad feeling in his heart. Feng Zhong did not feel this way. Looking at the frosty ice dew in the sky, his eyes were burning. This thing is almost like giving it to me for free. He looked at Wang Lin and Yu Hongyan in Xianmen Tianzong's camp and sneered. He was the first to jump into the hidden dragon pot. Yang Qing took a deep breath and also jumped into the hidden dragon pot. Inside the pot was a completely independent heavenly passage world. The scenery was beautiful. Feng Zhong landed in the middle of the mountains. Looking at Yang Qing, he sneered. Both of his hands formed a technique. Suddenly, a wave of cold air rose around his body. It eroded the surrounding mountain streams and froze them into ice cubes. Outside, Xiao Budian looked at the world in the pot reflected in the light and shadow illusion. He raised his eyebrows. It's useful. Fifth senior brother's lunar true water not only controls the flow of water, it can even control the frozen glaciers. Feng Zhong looked at Yang Qing and smiled. You also fought in the Battle of the Sand Continent. How could I not know that you have the lunar true water? The problem is, you can control water and ice, but what about flames? His technique changed. The frozen glaciers immediately changed into pale white flames. However, these flames did not have the slightest bit of heat. Instead, they were bone-piercingly cold. This was the Heavenly Pool sect's signature ability, Ice Flame. Under Feng Zhong's control, the surging ice flame turned into a cold pale sea of flames that surrounded Yang Qing. The powerful force attracted the attention of the spectators outside. All of the participating Foundation establishment stage cultivators had serious expressions. Feng Zhong was indeed a chatterbox, but he also had real skills. Although he looked arrogant, he actually had a deep understanding of each of his opponents in order to know himself and his enemy. Huo Chen looked at this scene and murmured, in this spell assembly, the ones who pose the greatest threat to me are Shi Shaoqian, Xianmen Tianzong's Yu Hongyan, and this Feng Zhong in front of me. Several primordial spirit cultivators also looked at the illusion in the pot. The strength that Feng Zhong displayed was naturally not worth mentioning, but it did not prevent them from giving a fair evaluation. For Foundation establishment stage cultivators, he is quite outstanding. Dao Master Chang Lu slightly nodded and looked at Chao Wei. Congratulations to Sect Master Chao for producing such an outstanding talent. Northern Militant Wuxian Prince's expression did not change, but he also secretly nodded. His old rival's talent did not show a break, and the contest between the two sides would continue for a long time. Dao Master Chang Lu is overpraising me. Chao Wei looked at Lin Feng and said lightly, some things cannot be avoided. Lin Feng, who had been expressionless until now, suddenly smiled, as if the clouds were dispelling the sun. I feel the same. Before he finished speaking, he saw that in the hidden dragon pot, Yang Qing calmly faced the ice flame sea that surrounded him and suddenly put his palms together. A green stream of water flashing with a seven-colored light suddenly rushed out from his side and quickly merged into the surrounding ice flame sea. The green stream of water disappeared, but the ice flame sea became more and more intense, as if it had swallowed the green stream of water. But Feng Zhong could not be happy. Instead, he was shocked, as if he had seen a ghost. The next moment, the ice flame sea suddenly became chaotic. The inside was constantly surging, and in the end, it began to collapse and dissipate. It was as if Feng Zhong himself had failed to cast the spell. The people watching the battle outside the pot were stunned and did not know what had happened. They stared blankly at the originally menacing ice flame sea turning into a joke with a strong start and a weak finish. Others could not see the reason behind it, but several primordial spirit cultivators could see it. Chao Wei's face was so gloomy that it was about to drip water. In his ears came Lin Feng's light voice, "On behalf of my disciple, I thank you for these 100 drops of freezing ice dew." Chapter 282. Under the illumination of the boundless pale white ice flame, Yang Qing's already white cheeks became even paler. He was like a lonely boat in a stormy sea, as if he would be swallowed by the sea of fire in an instant. Everyone thought that Fang Zhong would defeat Yang Qing in an instant, and at the same time, break the reputation of the Xianmen Tianzong disciples who were invincible in the same realm. Several primordial soul realm experts could naturally see that Yang Qing's strength was actually not bad after he calmed down, but they did not expect that the final result would be like this. Fang Zhong, who was still aggressive just a moment ago, controlled the boundless ice flame sea and rushed towards Yang Qing. In the blink of an eye, his own ice flame sea changed and collapsed. It was really like the old saying, loud thunder, but small raindrops. Others would think that Fang Zhong made a mistake in releasing his own magic, but the primordial soul realm experts and the Yuanying ancestors who were above the golden elixir period could clearly see that the reason why Fang Zhong's ice flame sea collapsed was because of the green water that Yang Qing had released before. The green water flashing with colorful light, after merging into the ice flame sea, quickly transformed into the appearance of the ice flame, but it did not merge with the ice flame or be swallowed by the ice flame. It simply became the appearance of the ice flame, but it was still under Yang Qing's control and retained the ability to act independently. Strictly speaking, it was more like a kind of mimicry ability, a kind of imitation ability, transforming oneself into the state of the opponent. The green water that Yang Qing released was not just pretending to look like the ice flame, but had completely transformed into the ice flame. It had all the characteristics of the Heavenly Pool sect's secret magical ability, the ice flame. However, the ice flame that was transformed by the green water was still under Yang Qing's control, and it could change back to its original state at any time. That green water is the lunar true water, right? Gambling Dao Master Zhuge Guang said in surprise, "I have always known that the lunar true water has the ability to control water, but I have never heard of it having such a function." Dao Master Blue Thunder pondered and said, "Perhaps it has something to do with the fact that the lunar true water does not emit colorful light. The essence should still be the lunar true water, but after being refined by a secret method, it has developed a special magical ability." Lin Feng looked at this scene with a silent smile on his face. All things follow the heart, Extreme Yin Mantra. This was the Dharma spell that Yang Qing created after comprehending the 8 trigrams Universal Great Way scripture that Lin Feng taught him and combining it with his own true Yin water Dharma power. Yang Qing used the lunar true water as a carrier and integrated it with his understanding of the principles of creation and transformation of all things in the 8 trigrams mantra of the Great Tao, and finally comprehended the all things follow the heart lunar incantation. In the process of perfecting the spell, he had also received Miao Shihao's help. After referring to Miao Shihao's supernatural state spell of the 4 arts of illusionary flowers, reflected moon, and sky true water's miraculous effect of combining all living things, he had finally succeeded in perfecting this spell. Yang Qing could now use her own true Yin water to imitate the opponent's magic power divine ability, and then mix her own magic power into the opponent's magic power. Then, she would cause the opponent's magic power to be in chaos, causing the opponent's magic power to collapse by itself. Under the right circumstances, it was most suitable for the weak to defeat the strong, and it consumed very little magic power. Of course, there were still many shortcomings and flaws in the spell. For example, it had to come into contact with the opponent's magic power in order to simulate changes, so it could only be used for defense and counterattack. Moreover, it was just a simple simulation and could not really analyze the principle of the opponent's divine ability. Therefore, it could only imitate the opponent's magic power at the time and could not be restored afterwards, so it could not really learn the opponent's magic power. However, Lin Feng saw great potential in it. As Yang Qing's cultivation continued to improve, his understanding of the Tao continued to deepen. If he could overcome all the above shortcomings, then he would definitely become a heaven-defying existence. Lin Feng was not the only one with such foresight and vision. At this moment, Shi Zongyue looked at Lin Feng and sighed, "Congratulations to sect leader Lin for having another good disciple. Prince Anliang is too polite." Lin Feng smiled. At this moment, Chao Wei snorted coldly, "What kind of Commander Wanshue is this? He's simply a thief in the water." When Lin Feng heard this, he smiled and did not argue further. And Yang Qing in the hidden dragon pot, after breaking Fang Zhong's ice flame, took the opportunity to release his next spell. The rolling Taiyin true water poured down like a mountain torrent. It was the Taiyin mountain torrent incantation that Yang Qing had created after improving the mountain torrent incantation that she had learned from the cloud water cave. The principle was similar, both were to explode one's mana and attack with full force. Yang Qing was very clear about his own weaknesses. He didn't have enough experience in fights of magical powers, and he wasn't proficient in manipulating magical powers. Therefore, the two magical powers he had mastered, the Lunar Flood incantation and the All Things Originate from the Heart incantation, did not require precise manipulation. Moreover, he used all his strength from the start, ending the battle as quickly as possible and knocking down the opponent. The shorter the time and the fewer attacks, the lower the probability of him making mistakes. Because of his lack of experience and skills, the possibility of the opponent seizing the opportunity was also smaller. Poor Fang Zhong, after his strongest ice flame was broken, finally regained his senses and prepared to regroup. However, he was directly drenched by the lunar true water that was like a mountain torrent. If it were not for the protection of the hidden dragon pot's restriction, his whole body would have been swallowed by the lunar true water and turned into nothingness. But even so, Fang Zhong was still battered and exhausted. The lunar true water had already damaged his foundation, and even his pill cauldron had been damaged. It might even affect his future core formation. Chao Wei looked coldly at Lin Feng. "You really have good acting skills. Just now, you deliberately showed weakness and lured me into the trap, right? Thinking about it, you can be considered a dignified sect master, yet you actually played this kind of small trick. Aren't you afraid of making a fool of yourself?" Lin Feng smiled indifferently. "From the beginning to the end, I believed that my disciple would definitely win. Some people didn't have the foresight and took the initiative to propose a bet. Now that you've humiliated yourself, do you want to deny your loss? In the end, who's the one making a fool of himself?" Chao Wei stared at him for a long time before saying coldly, "If I'm willing to bet, I'm willing to lose. Since I dared to bet, I naturally dared to admit my loss." He waved his hand and 100 drops of freezing cold dew flew out from the icy mist in the sky and landed in front of Lin Feng. Lin Feng rolled up his sleeve and took away all of the freezing cold dew. As for Chao Wei's side, there were only a few drops left in the icy mist. Yang Qing came out of the hidden dragon pot. Her face was a bit pale. She returned to Lin Feng's side and bowed. "Disciple was fortunate enough to not disappoint you." Lin Feng smiled and said, "Just like Master told you before, you must always remember that you're actually very strong. Even though you have this and that kind of weakness, it doesn't change the fact that you're very strong. What you need to do is to make yourself stronger and stronger." Yang Qing also smiled and nodded. "Disciple will definitely redouble his efforts." Lin Feng waved his hand. "Take a rest first. You still have additional gains this time." Yang Qing smiled and turned to look at the others. Tiny Tot and Zhu Yi both smiled and nodded. Wang Lin's usually cold face also revealed a bit of a smile. Yu Hongyan even gave him a thumbs up and smiled like a flower. Yang Qing let out a long breath and said to himself in his heart, "I have to work harder." The competition continued after that. The one who attracted the most attention was Shi Shaoqian. This child indeed had the right to be arrogant. Even when facing a cultivator from Purple Cloud Path who had gone through the lightning tribulation, he was still able to defeat him easily. Moreover, it made people feel that he had obviously held back. Shi Shaoqian had cultivated a set of Taoist technique from the Scarlet Dragon Emperor's book that was passed down in the royal family of the Great Qin dynasty. He had gained quite a bit of experience from cultivating it, and its power was boundless. When Xianmen Tianzong and the others saw this, they all felt a slight shiver in their hearts. Lin Feng slowly said, "Everyone knows that the Great Zhou dynasty has become more and more powerful in recent years, and its influence has continuously expanded. However, the strength of the Great Qin dynasty cannot be underestimated. Even though it has been hindered by the internal strife of various factions, it is still one of the top existences in the Divine Land. There are quite a few unique Dao techniques. In this spell gathering, if you want to talk about opponents, Shi Xingyun and Shi Shaoqian would be the first choice." After Shi Shaoqian left the stage, it was the turn of a northern militant cultivator and a Hua family cultivator to fight. In the end, the northern militant man named Zamuzalo won. Zamuzalo came out of the dragon concealment pot and looked at the gloomy Hua Chen. He said in a low and muffled voice, "You're not the only ones who have experienced enough life and death battles. The northern wilderness is even more dangerous than the southern frontier." When Xiao Budian heard this, he smiled and said, "This big guy is not bad, I like him." The others all smiled and even Wang Lin smiled and shook his head. At this time, Yu Hongyan looked at Lin Feng, "Master, I'm going." It was her turn to go next. However, Yu Hongyan could indeed be said to be the person with the worst luck in Xianmen Tianzong in the Foundation Establishment Stage competition. In the first round, Wang Lin and Yang Qing were both absent. She was the only one who had to compete. In the end, in the second round, she encountered the sword companions of the Sun Moon Sword sect. Yu Hongyan asked, "Master, should I go with third senior brother or fifth junior brother?" "Neither." Lin Feng shook his head and smiled as he pointed at Zhuge Fengling, "You go with her." Yu Hongyan's eyes suddenly widened. Xiao Budian and the rest were also in an uproar as they looked at Lin Feng in shock. The most shocked person was Zhuge Fengling herself. She stretched out her finger in a daze and pointed at the tip of her nose, "Me?" Although they had not really fought before, everyone had more or less an idea. They knew that Zhuge Fengling, who was in the early foundation establishment stage, was actually not very good at fighting. She was also not passionate about fighting, and the Dao techniques and magical powers that she cultivated were also not strong. If she and Yu Hongyan went up together, it was almost equivalent to letting Yu Hongyan face the Sun Moon Sword sect's dual sword harmony alone. A flash of understanding flashed in Zhu Yi's eyes. "Master, you suggested that the Sun Moon Sword sect cultivators could participate in the competition in pairs and enter the top 8. The winners would have 2 spots to enter the ancient desolate sea world. Actually, you were waiting for this moment, using this method to let us bring Zhuge Fengling in?" Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Xiao Budian asked curiously, "But, why?" He glanced at Zhuge Fengling. "There's no point in bringing her. If it's to make it easier to find treasures, we can just bring that little mouse of hers along." The reason why I suggested that was not only because of her, but also because of other reasons. Lin Feng smiled and said, "That gold-digging mouse can help in finding treasures, but she herself can also play a role." Zhu Yi pondered for a moment, "But, how can we guarantee that we will definitely meet the people of the Sun Moon Sword sect?" Chapter 283. Under the premise of not cheating, no one could guarantee that they would definitely meet someone from the Sun Moon Sword sect. After all, under Sun Moon Sword Venerable's insistence, the Sun Moon Sword sect still had 4 people, divided into 2 groups, and not 4 groups of 8. The probability of meeting them was still limited. However, Lin Feng had full confidence in his sect's disciples. Unless they were unlucky enough to meet each other early, Wang Lin, Yu Hongyan, and Yang Qing would have no problem entering the top 8. And the Sun Moon Sword sect's dual sword harmony was trustworthy to a certain extent. If the 2 groups also entered the top 8, then the probability of meeting each other in the drawing of lots was very high. As for why Xiao Budian and the others brought Zhuge Fengling into the ancient desolate sea world, Lin Feng naturally had his reasons. However, it was not to be told to outsiders, because he was the only one who could see the data of the talent detector. Therefore, he was the only one who knew that Zhuge Fengling's other data was ordinary, except for her luck, which was as high as 9 points. She was a true lucky general. The many treasures she usually found seemed to be through her gold-digging mouse, but in fact, it was related to her own high luck. Although Zhu Yi, who had full luck points, personally came out this time, as far as Lin Feng knew, the ancient desolate sea world was very large. If they had to split up, another person with high luck could still be of use. Taking a step back, if he doesn't draw the Sun Moon Sword sect's disciples in the end, or if the Sun Moon Sword sect's disciples aren't up to par and are completely annihilated before the top 8, then Lin Feng won't lose anything, he can just treat it as a casual move. But now, it seemed that his luck was not bad. Yu Hongyan had drawn a disciple from the Sun Moon Sword sect, and at the same time, it was a very crucial competition for the top 16. As long as he could defeat his opponent, he would be able to get one more spot. Of course, all of this was based on defeating his opponent. Lin Feng was even glad that Yu Hongyan had drawn the lot. Bringing along a teammate like Zhuge Fengling who could only slack off at the side was no different from fighting 1 against 2. If it was Yang Qing, Lin Feng would really be worried. If it was Wang Lin or Yu Hongyan, Lin Feng would feel more at ease. Lin Feng had been encouraging Yang Qing, telling him that he was actually very strong. This was not a lie, but a fact. However, the concept of strength was always relative. It depended on who the reference was. Although Yu Hongyan did not really understand why Lin Feng wanted her to bring Zhuge Fengling along, the word fear did not exist in Yu Hongyan's dictionary. She immediately nodded. I will go now. She turned to Zhuge Fengling. Stand behind me and protect yourself. Zhuge Fengling revealed a smile that was uglier than crying. Of course, of course. Her gold-digging rat lay listlessly on her shoulder and sent a telepathic message to her. Fengling, can we not fight? The Sun Moon Sword sect's dual sword amalgamation is no joke. Sure, why not? Go talk to that senior Lin. If he agrees, it will definitely be fine. Zhuge Fengling frowned. The gold-digging rat's little ears twitched. Fengling, why don't we find a chance to escape? It feels too dangerous if we continue staying like this. Zhuge Fengling hesitated. Let's wait and see. At least if we can enter the ancient desolate sea world this time, there should be many good things inside, right? You want money more than your life. The gold-digging rat looked up and sighed. Lin Feng watched as the two of them entered the hidden dragon pot. He laughed in his heart. I have to make the best use of everything. I can't waste it. When the others saw that Xianmen Tianzong had sent out Yu Hongyan and Zhuge Fengling, they could not help but be stunned. They all thought that Yu Hongyan's partner would be either Wang Lin or Yang Qing. However, after Yang Qing's clean turnaround, no one dared to underestimate the people who came out of Xianmen Tianzong. Silently, they first observed to see if Zhuge Fengling was also outstanding. Zhuge Fengling, who was being watched by everyone, cursed in her heart. She even wanted to die. This girl is also Sect Master Lin's personal disciple. The Solar Glory Sword Venerable's eyes flashed. With his cultivation, he could naturally see through Zhuge Fengling with one look. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. That's not the case. To be precise, this girl can only be regarded as an in-name disciple of mine. The Solar Glory Sword Venerable smiled. Just now, Sect Master Chao and Sect Master Lin made a bet. It made my heart itch and I also want to bet with Sect Master Lin. What do you think, Sect Master Lin? Lin Feng smiled and said, today, everyone learned from the Gambling Dao Sovereign. Shi Zong Yue, Blue Thunder Dao Master, and the others all had smiles on their faces. Zhuge Guang himself even laughed. He did not feel offended. Instead, he looked a little smug. He smiled. It's you guys that made my heart itch. Don't blame me, Gambling Lord. The Solar Glory Sword Venerable smiled. He looked at Lin Feng and said, "My bet with Sect Master Lin is naturally a bet on the victory of the disciples. This is what I'm betting on. I hope Sect Master Lin doesn't mind." He flicked his finger and a golden light flew into the air. It was like a small sun, shining brightly. Solar Essence Stone. Lin Feng stared at this small sun and carefully identified it. The Solar Glory Sword Venerable is really generous. The Solar Essence Stone and the Radiant Moon Soul Stone were the two most precious resources produced by the Sun Moon Sword sect. The former nurtured the purest sunlight essence, while the latter collected the purest moonlight essence. In today's world, the two treasures that contained the most sunlight essence were the Solar Essence Stone and the Solar True Fire. However, compared to the fierceness of the Solar True Fire, the sunlight essence contained in the Solar Essence Stone was much gentler and more suitable for cultivators to absorb. Under normal circumstances, the Solar Essence Stone was only the size of a grain of rice. However, the essence contained in such a small Solar Essence Stone was enough for a foundation establishment cultivator to cultivate for a long time. It would also take a long time for a golden elixir period cultivator to completely absorb the sunlight essence. The Solar Essence Stone that Solar Glory Sword Venerable used as the wager was 1 square foot in size. Even if it was given to a Yuanying cultivator to cultivate and absorb all the sunlight essence within, it would still take years as the unit of measurement. No matter what Lin Feng's motive was, he suggested that the Sun Moon Sword sect could use a duo to participate in the competition. The Sun Moon Sword sect had benefited from this, and Solar Glory Sword Venerable would owe him a favor. Therefore, he proposed the wager. He was not angry, but purely curious about why Lin Feng had so much confidence in Yu Hongyan, daring to let her fight 1 against 2. Lin Feng also understood this point, so he did not take advantage of Solar Glory Sword Venerable. With a wave of his hand, a piece of pitch-black fine iron flew out and floated in the air. It was a piece of dark light meteoric iron. Dark light meteoric iron was one of the 6 great rare metals in the world, and was the best material for forging flying swords. As long as 1 tael or even a few coins were added into the forging of a flying sword, the strength of the flying sword would immediately increase by a level, and it would also have special uses that were different from ordinary swords. For sword cultivators, it was truly the most precious treasure. Solar Glory Sword Venerable was also very satisfied with this wager. In terms of value, the wager of both parties was more or less equal. Lin Feng said, "Just like before, the prize that I win will all belong to the disciples who participate in the competition." Solar Glory Sword Venerable nodded, "That's how it should be." As the two big shots finalized the wager, on the other side, Yu Hongyan and Zhuge Fengling had already entered the hidden dragon pot. Their opponents were also in place. It was a young man and woman, full of spirit and energy, and full of energy. Like all sword cultivators, the cultivators of the Sun Moon Sword sect were all aggressive. Not only was the male disciple Li Bingqing like this, even the female disciple Zhou Yuhua was like an unsheathed sword, showing off her ability. After entering the hidden dragon pot, Zhuge Fengling did not need Yu Hongyan's reminder. She immediately hid herself in the mountains and rivers. She also really wanted to enter the ancient desolate sea world. If she wanted to enter, she had to guarantee that she could defeat the opponent in front of her. Zhuge Fengling's position for herself was to not be a useless teammate and drag the team down. She did not count on her to help, but it was fine as long as she did not make things worse. In this competition, she was hugging someone's thigh and hoping to win without doing anything. Her thigh was not thick enough, so there was nothing she could do. Instead, Yu Hongyan revealed an expression of approval towards her actions. After Zhuge Fengling disappeared, she did not waste any words and cupped her fists towards Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua. She raised the black flame halberd and directly attacked. Seeing this scene, Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua were a little bewildered. Zhou Yuhua said hesitantly, "That woman hid. Is she trying to launch a sneak attack?" Li Bingqing said, "Be more vigilant. Perhaps the path, technique, and mystique that she cultivates is invisible or natural. She specializes in sneak attacks during fights." Towards the straightforward Yu Hongyan, the two of them did not care too much. It was not because they were careless, but because they had at least the confidence they had in themselves to be able to reach this stage. Li Bingqing let out a long roar and used the sunlight swordsmanship that was passed down from his sect. With a slash of his sword, there was a burst of light, and it was as if he had turned into a blazing sun. Thousands of rays of sun-like sword light shot towards Yu Hongyan. Zhou Yuhua, on the other hand, took a step back and unleashed the moonlight sword Dao. Her entire body became indistinct, as if the bright moon in the night sky was covered by dark clouds. Only specks of pure white sword light could be seen occasionally. In their team, most of the time, Li Bingqing was the main attacker while Zhou Yuhua supported him from the side. However, after Li Bingqing attracted most of the opponent's attention, Zhou Yuhua would suddenly attack and cause more damage, becoming a more fatal threat. It was the same this time, but Zhou Yuhua was a little more careful. She was secretly on guard against Zhuge Fengling, who had disappeared, to prevent her from launching a sneak attack at any time. Her actions were seen by the spectators, and most of them secretly nodded in agreement. They felt that she was experienced and prudent, guarding against defeat before thinking about victory. She was indeed meticulous. However, when this scene fell into the eyes of Xiao Budian and the rest, they laughed so hard that they almost rolled on the ground. The surrounding primordial spirit big shots could not help but smile as well. Lin Feng also shook his head and laughed. As expected, there is a need for technique in slacking. He turned his head to look at the sunlight swordsmanship venerable. The sunlight swordsmanship venerable met his gaze and shook his head with a bitter smile. I don't know my enemy well, I don't know my enemy well. Chapter 284. This pair of sword companions from the Sun Moon Sword sect had actually fallen into a misunderstanding. Their combination consisted of Li Bingqing's Sunlight Sword Dao attacking head-on while Zhou Yuhua's Moonlight Sword Dao hiding at the side. She would either help Li Bing make up for his weaknesses or suddenly deal a fatal blow after Li Bingqing attracted the enemy's attention. In their usual battles, Li Bingqing would attack head-on while Zhou Yuhua would hide and wait for an opportunity. However, Yu Hongyan and Zhuge Fengling's actions were too similar to theirs. Li Bingqing and Yang Qing instinctively thought that they were using the same tactics as them. Thus, when the two faced Yu Hongyan's attacks, they used at least half of their attention to observe their surroundings in case Zhuge Fengling suddenly jumped out and attacked them. While they knew that Zhuge Fengling was only at the beginning stage of foundation establishment, Wang Lin and Yang Qing's performance had already proved that the combat ability of Xianmen Tianzong disciples could not be judged by their cultivation alone. So, what was the person they treated so seriously doing at this moment? In the forest, Zhuge Fengling was sitting cross-legged behind a large tree. She was trying her best to hide her aura. She knew that the two of them were late-stage foundation establishment cultivators. If she made even the slightest movement or spiritual power ripple, she would be discovered. In Zhuge Fengling's understanding, in a 2-on-2 battle, the weaker one would be the first to be picked off. Then, she would focus on the stronger one. Thus, Zhuge Fengling, who felt like a weak persimmon, hid herself carefully. She was afraid that the other party would find her and kill her first. Xiao Jin, I've even stopped breathing. I'm in a fetal state. I don't emit any mana or hostility. Even my body temperature is almost completely locked. They shouldn't be able to find me now, right? Zhuge Fengling said to her gold-digging rat through telepathy, pleased with herself. The gold-digging rat lay on her shoulder. Its originally perked-up ears drooped down, and it also hid its aura. Receiving Zhuge Fengling's telepathy, it said seriously, shush, Fengling. The other party's cultivation is much higher than ours. We can't be careless. It's best if we don't even use telepathy. Zhuge Fengling also became serious. Yes, you are right. I was careless. After saying that, she cut off all communication with the gold-digging rat. She focused on pretending to be a lifeless mountain rock, a piece of rotten wood that had lost its vitality. In this way, Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua really couldn't find her. Zhou Yuhua was a little annoyed. Even the last trace has disappeared. Where are you hiding? I hate that I have to divert my attention to deal with this Yu Hongyan's attacks. Otherwise, I would have been able to find her if I had focused on searching. Outside the dragon concealing pot, Xiao Budian and Tunton were already laughing as they watched Zhuge Fengling pretend to be dead, and then looked at the Sun-Moon Sword sect duo who were on high alert. The corners of Wang Lin's mouth curled up. Isn't this considered unintentional? Yang Qing mumbled, can this also be considered a kind of restraint? Yes, yes. Zhu Yi turned around, his shoulders trembling slightly. More and more people understood the truth, and suppressed laughter sounded from the crowd. The group of ancestors and elders of the Sun-Moon Sword sect looked at the light projected from the mouth of the pot, their faces as black as the bottom of a pot. These two idiots. The Sun-Moon Sword sect cultivators wanted to find a hole to hide in. A few Yuanying ancestors really wanted to rush into the dragon concealing pot, grab Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua's collars, and tell them, you two idiots, the person you're on guard against is a weakest rookie. With such a contrast, all of you are even more of a noob than you are. Sun Glory Sword Venerable's emotions did not change, but he did not know whether to laugh or cry. I've made a fool of myself. The other primordial spirit experts comforted him. You're too kind, you're too kind. You were just in the wrong for a moment. Inside the dragon concealing pot, Zhou Yuhua was still trying hard to find Zhuge Fengling, but Li Bingqing could not hold on any longer. Yu Hongyan's halberd flew, and his attacks became more and more violent. He seemed to have turned into a ball of fire, wanting to burn the sun formed by Li Bingqing's sword light. Zhou Yuhua became more and more irritated. Whatever, if you don't come out, we'll use our advantage of 2 against 1 to get rid of this tough girl. Attack the enemy's weakness. Your fellow sect member is defeated, and you can't do anything alone. Let's see if you can still be so calm. A bright moon-white sword light suddenly burst out, like the clouds breaking the moon. Zhou Yuhua finally took the initiative to attack. She used the Moonlight Sword Dao to coordinate with Li Bingqing's Sunlight Sword Dao to attack Yu Hongyan together. Li Bingqing's Sunlight Sword Dao was activated to the extreme, and countless sword lights turned into a sky full of light rain that poured down, sealing Yu Hongyan's front, back, left, and right. Yu Hongyan frowned slightly. She sharply noticed that there were a few faint white sword lights mixed in the golden light rain. The white sword lights were faintly discernible. Although there were less than 10 of them, the lethality of them shocked her. Especially the golden sword lights that were mixed in the dense rain, their positions kept changing, appearing even more strange and unpredictable, magnifying the threat by dozens of times. The laughter of the spectators outside the pot had completely stopped. Everyone focused on this scene and thought to themselves, the combination of the sun and moon swords is indeed powerful. Every Foundation establishment cultivator was asking themselves, if I were in such an attack, would I be able to handle it? After thinking about it carefully, most people shook their heads. At this moment, they all felt ashamed for mocking Li Bingqing and Zhuge Fengling. The people of the Sun and Moon Sword sect, on the other hand, were elated. Everyone had a proud smile on their faces. In the hidden dragon pot, such an inescapable net-like sure-kill attack had such a huge pressure that the breath in Yu Hongyan's chest kept spinning, but he couldn't spit it out. The shadow of death in his mind kept expanding. However, under such heavy pressure, a smile floated on Yu Hongyan's face. Accompanied by this smile, a high-spirited and unyielding spirit surged all over Yu Hongyan's body. He let out a long roar and flew into the air. Instead of retreating, he advanced and faced the joint attack of the sun and moon swords head-on. I don't care how many people there are. If 1 comes, I'll beat 1. If 2 comes, I'll beat both. The black flame halberd was waved by Yu Hongyan tightly, sweeping away the torrential golden sword lights. When the extremely fierce halberd was waved, it would occasionally change, becoming extremely light and agile. It drew a mysterious trajectory, forming a large net that accurately intercepted Zhou Yuhua's strange and unpredictable white sword lights one by one, as if it was capturing birds. The two halberd techniques of extreme hardness and extreme softness were displayed by Yu Hongyan at the same time. Combining hardness and softness, he forcibly received the combined attack of the sun and moon swords by himself. The sun and moon swords, the glorious sun sword Dao walked the path of hardness and fierceness, while the moonlight sword Dao walked the path of softness and softness. When the two swords were combined, hardness and softness were combined. And Yu Hongyan was alone, using the halberd to balance hardness and softness at the same time. He didn't fall into a disadvantage at all. The northern militant's Wuxian prince's eyes lit up as he praised, with her current cultivation level, she's really not bad. He turned to look at Lin Feng, sect leader Lin, your female disciple's talent in martial arts is really outstanding. Even a primordial divinity expert like him felt his eyes light up, let alone the others. All the spectating cultivators' gazes were focused on Yu Hongyan, who was fighting 1 against 2. At this moment, the red-haired girl was like the sun and moon in the sky, seizing all the splendor. The great Qin imperial family's disciple, Shi Shaoqian, looked at Yu Hongyan with a strange light in his eyes, nodding continuously. Although it caused everyone to exclaim in admiration, how could Yu Hongyan be content with passively defending? She let out a clear whistle, her body releasing red air masses that seemed like wind, yet not wind, like fog, yet not fog, flashing with a terrifying red light. The expressions of the primordial divinity experts watching the battle changed slightly. Infinite baleful qi? Once the infinite baleful qi was released, Yu Hongyan's aura skyrocketed again, the red astral wind fused with her own black flame mana, turning into a flashing red firestorm. The baleful qi was shocking, and it counterattacked Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua. Although their attacks were blocked before, Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua were not worried. After all, they were working together, and if it turned into a stalemate, they would definitely have the advantage in mana, and in the end, they would be able to exhaust Yu Hongyan to death. Moreover, if they defended for a long time, there would be losses, and they did not believe that Yu Hongyan would not make mistakes. But now that Yu Hongyan's infinite baleful qi was released, Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua's expressions instantly changed. After fusing with the infinite baleful qi, Yu Hongyan's mana was incomparably ferocious, and it suppressed them. Fighting 1 against 2, the result was that the two of them working together were actually unable to withstand it. We can't hold back, or else she will be able to take care of us alone. Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua looked at each other. Although their expressions were a little awkward, it did not prevent them from making the correct judgment in the first instance. The two of them chanted at the same time, sun and moon combine, yin and yang intersect. The resplendent golden sword light and the gentle white sword light gradually fused together, becoming indistinguishable from each other, and turned into a pale golden bright sword light. The power of this sword light suddenly rose sharply, like fire being born with wind. Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua's mana surged unceasingly, promoting each other, as if there was no limit to its growth. The principle was somewhat similar to Xiao Budian's unlimited wind and lightning technique. Lin Feng, who was watching the battle, slowly nodded his head. At this moment, the twin sword combination of the sun and moon sword sect finally displayed its true power. Two cultivators in the late stage of foundation establishment exerted the power of 1 + 1 is greater than 2. The strength of a cultivator in the early stage of gold core was no more than this. And the strength of a golden elixir period cultivator of a large sect like the sun-moon sword sect was naturally not something that ordinary loose cultivators could compare with. The power of this sword strike of Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua had already surpassed the early golden elixir cultivator Wang Jiannan that Yu Hongyan defeated on Cloud Traversing Peak. However, the current Yu Hongyan was also far from what she could be compared to before. The violent infinite baleful qi fused with Yu Hongyan's mana that had already reached the late foundation establishment realm. At the tip of her black flame halberd, it turned into a huge storm that continuously rotated, forming a bottomless black hole. A huge suction came from it, as if this part of the world was about to collapse into this black hole. Chapter 285. Void-Destroying Divine Spear. After Yu Hongyan cultivated the 8 trigrams of the Great Way of Heaven, he created this remarkable martial arts skill based on his own understanding of the Tao. Now that he had combined it with the power of the boundless demonic qi, it was even more unstoppable. Even with Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua's dual sword amalgamation, they were still no match for it. The faint golden sword gleam that had reached the golden elixir period was directly crushed by the void-destroying divine spear. Faced with the powerful attack that tore through space, the hidden dragon pot automatically reacted and blocked Yu Hongyan's spear for the pale Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua. The outcome of the battle was clear. Yu Hongyan fought 1 against 2 and defeated the Sun and Moon dual swords. With this battle by the North Wind Sea, Yu Hongyan's name was completely known to the world. He became a young genius that everyone knew and a rising superstar of the younger generation. At the same time, he once again showed the world the strength of the Xianmen Tianzong disciples. He was invincible in a fight of the same realm. He was invincible in a one-on-one fight and still won when he fought 1 against 2. Everyone who was watching the battle looked at Yu Hongyan, who came out of the hidden dragon pot with a complicated gaze. The red-haired girl was not very excited. Her expression was normal. After returning to her own Xianmen Tianzong camp, she bowed to Lin Feng. "Master." Lin Feng smiled and nodded. "Well done." Yu Hongyan smiled. His originally cold face became much gentler. The little one patted Zhuge Fengling's shoulder and said in an old-fashioned tone, "You did well too, although we all know that you didn't do it on purpose." Zhuge Fengling was still a little confused. She was focused on restraining her aura, afraid that the other party would discover her. Naturally, she could not observe Li Bingqing and Zhou Yuhua's movements. However, she was also very clever. She smiled and said, "It's all thanks to Sister Hongyan." The little one flattered him. In reality, she was slightly older than Yu Hongyan. "Although you're just a bystander, you're still a bystander with some skill." Lin Feng shook his head and laughed. He thought to himself, "It's just that Hongyan is really powerful." The last head-on clash has already proved that even if Zhuge Fengling did not cause the other party to panic, Hongyan does have the ability to fight 1 against 2. On the other side, Solar Luminary Sword Venerable said with a graceful smile, "Sect Master Lin's disciple is indeed extraordinary." As he said that, he was willing to concede defeat and very straightforwardly handed the Sun Essence Stone to Lin Feng. Lin Feng accepted the Sun Essence Stone and said with a smile, "In all fairness, this is also my disciple's fated chance. If it wasn't for the infinite baleful qi, the outcome would still be uncertain." The Solar Luminary Sword Exalt shook his head and sighed, "Even so, it's 1 against 2. My Sun Moon Sword sect is rather ashamed." Great Qin King Anliang, Shizong Yue, glanced at Lin Feng and said slowly, "Solar True Fire, Nether Evil Light, Lunar True Water, and Infinite Baleful Qi. Sect Master Lin's sect is really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. King Anliang is flattering me." Lin Feng smiled and did not explain further. Many times, the more fake and real, the more the opponent could not see through, the better the effect. Lin Feng's gaze swept across the group of big shots. Suddenly, his heart moved because he noticed that Chao Wei's gaze was on Xiao Budian. His gaze was calm, and no one knew what he was thinking. As if noticing Lin Feng looking over, Chao Wei moved his gaze away and looked at the dragon concealing pot. Among the next pair of disciples to compete, there were people from his Sky Lake sect. Lin Feng frowned inwardly, what is this guy planning? Other than the Sky Lake sect's disciples, the other side was also a pair of sword companions from the Sun Moon Sword sect. Lin Feng patted Xiao Budian, who was still teasing Zhuge Fengling, and scolded with a smile, "Brat, watch carefully. In your Golden Elixir Periods competition, the Sun Moon Sword sect is also a threshold that cannot be avoided. Don't blame me for not reminding you. In the Sun Moon Sword sect, the higher the realm of the cultivator, the greater the power of the dual sword harmony. It is not only because of the increase in personal strength, but also because the sword companions have been together for a long time. Their minds are connected, and their tacit understanding is better. The mana and sword light fusion are also more perfect. Lin Feng pointed at Yu Hongyan. Hongyan actually went to the mine for you guys. Xiao Budian shook his head and smiled. Don't worry, master. I watched 4th senior sister's match seriously. He looked at Yu Hongyan and smiled. Actually, the best way to deal with the sword companions of the Sun Moon Sword sect is to defeat them one by one. Once they are separated, they will not be a concern. 4th senior sister definitely understands this, she just doesn't want to do it. Yu Hongyan faintly smiled and didn't say anything. It was just as the little guy said. She also knew that attacking in a roundabout manner was actually the best plan. However, because of her personality, she still chose to face them head-on in the end. While the master and disciples were talking, the battle in the dragon concealing pot had already reached its climax. Compared to Xianmen Tianzong's side, where Zhuge Fengling slacked off and let Yu Hongyan fight 1 against 2, the Sky Lake Sect's duo was clearly more serious. Other than the main character, the person who came to help was also not weak. It was a disciple who was regrettably eliminated in the first round. However, the main character in the dragon concealing pot was not him, nor was it the sword companions of the Sun Moon Sword sect, but the Sky Lake sect disciple who drew lots to be his opponent. More than half of the Sun Moon Sword sect's attacks were taken by this person. Her strength was considered outstanding among the cultivators of the same level. Coincidentally, this Sky Lake sect disciple was also a woman like Yu Hongyan. With Lin Feng's current cultivation, he could tell at a glance that this woman was the same as Yu Hongyan. She was not even 20 yet, but she was already a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Her talent in Dao techniques could be said to be extraordinarily high. It could be said to be at the level of a monster. I remember, her name is Dao Yuding. Lin Feng thought for a while and suddenly thought of something. This surname is very rare. Thinking of this, Lin Feng looked towards the camp of the Great Qin dynasty. At the back of the team stood a group of middle-aged cultivators. They were not the young heroes who were participating in the spell assembly, but the cultivators of the Great Qin who were in charge of receiving the guests. Lin Feng easily found Dao Jiqiang among them. At this moment, Dao Jiqiang's expression was normal. He looked at the light and shadow projected by the dragon concealing pot. Like the others, there was admiration in his gaze, as if he was purely watching the battle. However, Lin Feng, who already had a guess in his heart, observed carefully. He could see that Dao Jiqiang's fists were trembling slightly. This showed that he was not calm at this moment. It was just that he was forcefully suppressing this excitement. Lin Feng said in his heart, "This is interesting." As far as he knew, the Sky Lake sect's way of doing things was somewhat domineering and evil. There was a rule in the sect that cut off worldly ties. This sect collected a large number of talented young children. Orphans were fine, but if the young children had parents or relatives, they would be secretly killed by the sect. If I'm not wrong, the relationship between Dao Jiqiang and that Dao Yuding is probably not simple. Countless thoughts flashed through Lin Feng's mind, but he managed to avoid Sky Lake sect's cutting off worldly ties. This person has a fortitude. I'm afraid he won't be satisfied with the current situation. Lin Feng observed carefully and saw that there were indeed some similarities between Dao Yuding and Dao Jiqiang. However, at this moment, Dao Yuding's expression was cold and stern. Although her appearance was elegant, it was completely covered by a murderous aura. Her lips were as white as paper, without a trace of blood. Not only did her cultivation surpass her current partner, but it was also above Fang Zhong, who was defeated by Yang Qing. She had a lot of Sky Lake sect spells at her fingertips, and she was quite proficient in them. Seeing this, Lin Feng already understood that Dao Yuding was the Sky Lake sect's trump card in the Desolate Sea spell assembly this time. Not only did she have to get into the top 8, she also had the heavy responsibility of reaching a higher rank. She was indeed quite strong. At least according to Lin Feng's observation, other than his own Xianmen Tianzong's disciples, only Shi Shaoqian could defeat this girl. The others were not optimistic when facing Dao Yuding. Sure enough, the Sun-Moon Sword sect suffered another tragedy this time. Originally, their dual sword harmony technique made all the participating cultivators turn pale at the mention of it, but no one expected that the two pairs of Foundation Establishment cultivators of the Sun-Moon Sword sect would be completely defeated in the round of 16. When Dao Yuding came out of the hidden dragon pot, the Sky Lake sect's camp burst into a warm applause. The other people looked at the girl in white with admiration. Anyone could see that the Sky Lake sect's victory in this battle was at least due to Dao Yuding's contribution. Some busybodies privately spread that Dao Yuding and the previous Yu Hongyan were already listed as peerless beauties. Both of them became famous by defeating the Sun-Moon Sword sect's sword companions. They were both talented, reaching Foundation Establishment late-stage Pill Cauldron stage before the age of 20. At the same time, they were both rare beauties. One was as red as fire, the other was dressed as white as snow. When Lin Feng saw this, he couldn't help but shake his head and laugh. This is really February and August, the season of heat has come. Yu Hongyan didn't care about this. The little girl's attention was all on the new round of drawing. Dao Yuding's battle ended, and the top 16 of the Foundation Establishment cultivators were announced to be over. The top 8 were all formed. Wang Lin, Yang Qing, Yu Hongyan, the Great Qin Dynasty's Shi Shaoqian, the Sky Lake sect's Dao Yuding, the Hua clan's Hua Chen, the Northern militant's Samuzalo, and a young disciple of the Purple Sky Dao formed the top 8 lineup. At this time, everyone's gaze towards Xianmen Tianzong changed. 3 people participated in the competition, and all 3 advanced to the top 8. Of the 8 seats, Xianmen Tianzong alone occupied 3 seats. For a moment, there was no one in the limelight. Although Wang Lin and Yang Qing didn't participate in the first round, such a shocking result also let everyone see the strength of Xianmen Tianzong. This also made everyone look forward to the results of the new round of draw for the top 8. The attention of the people under Lin Feng was also focused on the copper bottle used for drawing lots in front of Dao Master Changle. Dao Master Changle shook the copper bottle and first drew out 2 names. The first one was Dao Yuding, who had just become famous, and her opponent was also very interesting, the Northern Militant Imperial Court's martial arts cultivator Zamuzalo. The Sky Lake sect and the Northern Militant Imperial Court happened to be a pair of old enemies. Chao Wei and Northern Militant Prince Wuxian looked at each other, and Lin Feng could clearly see the sparks produced when their eyes collided. Dao Master Changle smiled bitterly and ignored them. He then drew out the next name, glanced at it, and slowly read, Xianmen Tianzong, Yu Hongyan. Chapter 286. The second match of the third round, Xianmen Tianzong Yu Hongyan vs Xianmen Tianzong Yang Qing. As soon as this was said, there was a slight commotion in the venue. Everyone was talking about it, and some even looked at Xianmen Tianzong's group with gloating eyes. Who gave you the glory and arrogance? Now you're being punished, right? Among the top 8, Xianmen Tianzong alone occupied 3 spots. Such a strong and domineering performance really put a lot of pressure on many people. On Lin Feng's side, everyone smiled bitterly, especially Yang Qing. Her face was bitter as if she had swallowed a gold thread. Xiao Budian turned to look at Lin Feng and whispered, Master, could it be that someone deliberately tricked us? Lin Feng was also a little helpless. He shook his head and said, No, this time it's purely a matter of luck. Due to the influence of his previous life, Lin Feng was even more traumatized than them when it came to underhand manipulation in the drawing of lots. Therefore, although he knew that the Great Qin dynasty would not be so despicable, Lin Feng still subconsciously paid attention to Dao Master Changle, Shi Zongyue, and the others. After all, the celestial sect of Xianmen's performance in this competition of Foundation Establishment stage cultivators was too strong. It was as if they were going to wipe the slate clean and not leave any scraps for others. It was as if they were going to turn the Desolate Sea Assembly into an internal competition of their own sect at any time. However, it turned out that perhaps some of the Yuanying stage ancestors and the Golden Elixir period elders had other ideas, but Shi Zongyue and the other Primordial Soul stage elders were still magnanimous. It was purely a coincidence that Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing were drawn together. Among the top 8, Xianmen Tianzong occupied 3 spots. The probability of them being drawn together was not low. Not everyone was unhappy. At least, the northern militant royal court and Tianqi sect were cheering together. This is really the best way to draw lots. Zamuzalo stared at Dao Yuding, an ominous glint flashing in his eyes. Dao Yuding was dressed in white, her long hair draped over her shoulders, and her expression was indifferent. When she came into contact with Zamuzalo's gaze that was filled with aggression, her icy cold eyes surged with fighting spirit. Shi Shaoqian was immediately drawn out. His opponent was the cultivator from the Purple Cloud Path. Both of them looked indifferent, but Shi Shaoqian was clearly more relaxed. His opponent's fighting spirit was intense. The people from Purple Cloud Dao were also celebrating. In the second round, Shi Shaoqian had eliminated the cultivators from Purple Cloud Dao and entered the top 8. Now, the group of cultivators from Purple Cloud Dao clearly felt that their chance for revenge had come. The candidates for the first 3 groups had all been confirmed, so the last group didn't need to draw lots. The results were already out. Wang Lin lowered his head as a cold smile appeared on his face. In the last match of the top 8, Xianmen Tianzong Wang Lin vs Hua Chen from the Hua clan. Hua Chen's murderous gaze also looked towards Wang Lin. The two of them muttered at the same time, "This is indeed the best way to draw lots." On the side of the group of primordial spirits, northern militant Prince Wuxian and Tianqi sect master Chao Wei had already started fighting. "Chao Wei, don't say that I'm bullying you. For this match, I'll bet a piece of Arctic cold iron. Do you dare to bet with me?" Northern militant Prince Wuxian immediately opened fire, targeting Chao Wei. Chao Wei said coldly, "I'm afraid that you'll go back on your words if you lose. If you want to humiliate yourself, I'll fulfill your wish. If you lose, I don't want your Arctic cold iron. I want your northern militant royal court snow tassel. Do you dare to bet? You're very confident." Prince Wuxian's eyes narrowed. "In that case, I want your Tianqi sect's Linghua mirror." Beside him, Zhuge Guang sucked in a breath of cold air. "Prince Wuxian, you're really ruthless this time." Prince Wuxian laughed loudly. "He has already lost all his freezing dew. I don't have the patience to wait for 10 years for him to slowly save it up for me. I'll bet." Hearing this, Chao Wei's gaze became even colder. His gaze moved back and forth between Lin Feng and Prince Wuxian. Lin Feng, who was unjustly implicated, glanced at Prince Wuxian and thought to himself, "You look like a big brute, but you're actually very vicious. You're purposely rubbing salt into Chao Wei's wounds and widening the conflict between us. No matter if it's the snow tassel or the Linghua dark mirror, they are both rare treasures. The wager of both parties this time is very substantial, already surpassing the wager between Lin Feng and the luminous sword venerable before. In terms of value, it was no less than the 100 drops of freezing dew that Lin Feng had won from Chao Wei." Dao Yuding and Zamuzalo entered the hidden dragon pot together. The two sides quickly began to fight. The two could be said to be evenly matched. For a moment, they were locked in a stalemate. The spectators outside the pot gradually immersed themselves in the battle. However, this was a battle between a beauty and a beast. Everyone's hearts leaned towards the winner, and they would definitely support the beauty more. This was especially true for the group of young cultivators. Most of their attention was focused on Dao Yuding. Lin Feng turned around and glanced at his disciples. He sighed endlessly. Why don't these kids of mine seem to be enlightened? However, after thinking about it carefully, there seemed to be a reason. There was no need to mention Xiao Budian. To put it harshly, he had not even weaned yet. Right now, most of his interest and time was placed on the sacred and great cause of eating. Wang Lin, on the other hand, was wholeheartedly cultivating. Other than cultivating, there was nothing else he could do. The pressure that his fellow disciples gave him was too great. He could not spare any attention to think about personal matters. Yang Qing's heart belonged to someone else. He was still thinking about his junior sister whose life and death were still unknown. Zhu Yi, who was the most normal and had the most free time, appeared to be gentle and polite. In fact, he was the most arrogant in his heart. Ordinary girls could not enter his eyes. Lin Feng shook his head. Stinky brats, logically speaking, I shouldn't have to worry about things like picking up girls for you, right? Let's not talk about Yang Qing first. As for the other three, with your bodies, shouldn't there be girls crying and screaming as they throw themselves at you, and you can't even beat them away? Moreover, it's not just one or two, but a group or two. Lin Feng cursed in his heart while paying attention to the situation inside the hidden dragon pot. At this moment, the situation suddenly began to change. Dao Yuding's body began to emit a white mist-like cold air. When this cold air landed on Zamuzalo's body, it turned into a raging fire. Zamuzalo was the most standard northern militant martial adept. His physical strength was extremely strong. His magic power had been tempered hundreds and thousands of times to strengthen his body. He was not even afraid of the ice flames that Dao Yuding had released before. He had directly used his flesh and blood to resist it. But now, when this cold air touched his body, it ignited into a raging fire. No matter how hard Zamuzalo tried, he could not extinguish it. His determined face showed a look of intense pain. When this scene appeared, everyone outside the pot was shocked. Those who knew immediately cried out in surprise, "Isn't this the Tian Qi sect's burning ice flame technique?" The burning ice flame technique is an extremely powerful technique that only the Tian Qi sect's Yuanying stage ancestors can cultivate. It is the Tian Qi sect's treasure. It is so difficult that even the Golden Elixir period adepts cannot comprehend it. She, a Foundation Establishment adept, has actually managed to cultivate it. Genius, an absolute genius, a once-in-a-lifetime genius. The entire venue was in an uproar. Even the group of primordial soul powerhouses had grave expressions. Dao Yuding's current strength was still no different from an ant to them. But the potential that she had displayed was definitely worthy of everyone's attention. The northern militant Prince Zuxian's face was ashen. He glared at Chao Wei. "Consider yourself lucky." Chao Wei snorted coldly and simply ignored him. In the hidden dragon pot, Zamuzalo, who would not even frown even if he was cut by 1,000 knives, was now in unbearable pain. He even cried out in pain. Dao Yuding did not stop. With a cold expression, she struck Zamuzalo, directly knocking him down. The hidden dragon pot's restrictions automatically reacted and blocked this attack for Zamuzalo. However, the fire on the surface of Zamuzalo's body continued to burn. After coming out of the hidden dragon pot, Prince Zuxian waved his hand and extinguished the flames. At this moment, Zamuzalo was already on the verge of death. Zhu Yi looked at this scene and frowned slightly. "Master, this ice essence burning flame, what is going on?" Lin Feng said slowly, "When the white fog-like cold air that she releases comes into contact with the opponent's magic power, it will turn into flames and burn the opponent's magic power. It will burn the opponent's magic power and use the opponent's magic power as fuel. The martial adepts of the Northern Militant Royal Court use their own magic power to constantly strengthen their qi, blood, and flesh. All of their magic power is dispersed into their limbs and bones. Once it comes into contact with the ice fog, it is equivalent to drawing fire to the body. The flames use their magic power as fuel, so no matter how you try to extinguish it, it cannot be extinguished." Lin Feng explained, "This ice essence burning flame can almost be said to be a great nemesis of martial adepts who practice the magical power of the body. It is one of the weapons that the Tian Qi sect uses to deal with the Northern Militant Royal Court. The reason why this technique has such a high status in the Tian Qi sect is directly related to its ability to restrain the Northern Militant martial adepts." Yang Qing said in a low voice, "There must be a weakness, right?" Wang Lin thought about it and said, "The difficulty of practicing is one. Just now, those people said that generally only Yuanying stage martial adepts can practice this technique. Then I carefully looked at it, and the speed at which the ice fog dissipates is actually very slow. If one is prepared, it is very easy to avoid. Xiao Budian also said, the reason why the burly northern militant was hit was largely because he did not expect the opponent to know this ice essence burning flame technique. He kept seeking close combat, and in the end, he just happened to run into the opponent's technique. If he knew that Dao Yuding knew this ice essence burning flame technique, although the burly northern militant would still close the distance, he would definitely be more vigilant. The physical movement speed of martial adepts is very fast, and in a situation where one is prepared, one can still avoid it. Yang Qing let out a long breath. Then there is still a way to deal with it. Zhu Yi nodded. Since it can only be practiced by Yuanying stage martial adepts, the difficulty of practicing it is one thing, and presumably it also consumes a lot of magic power. If one attack does not hit, it will be very difficult to have a second chance. Xiao Budian suddenly laughed. Fifth senior brother, don't think about that big sister for now. Think about how to fight with fourth senior sister first. Yang Qing heard this and immediately had a bitter expression, as if he was about to cry. Xiao Budian patted his shoulder. Fifth senior brother, you can't be thinking of directly giving up and guaranteeing fourth senior sister to enter the top 4, right? He originally meant to be joking, but who knew that Yang Qing actually thought about it very seriously, and then slowly nodded. It is better to hide one's incompetence than to show one's incompetence. This is a good idea. Chapter 287. Listening to Yang Qing's answer, Xiao Budian was speechless. After a long while, he came back to his senses and patted his back unhappily. How can you admit defeat before even fighting? It's not a real enemy. Yang Qing said gloomily, fighting with fellow disciples, knowing that you will lose, what's the point of fighting? Lin Feng glanced at him lightly, without actually fighting, who knows who will win and who will lose? Even if you know that your strength is not enough, you should not retreat, at least have the courage to fight. Besides, even if you fail, you can still gain something from it. Disciple was wrong, please forgive me. Yang Qing took a deep breath and cupped his hands towards Yu Hongyan, senior sister, please advise me. Yu Hongyan smiled, please. Yang Qing and Yu Hongyan walked side by side to the hidden dragon pot, then heard Xiao Budian suddenly shout behind them, fifth senior brother, fight well, if you really can't beat then just admit defeat. You this guy. Yang Qing almost fell to the ground, turned around and pointed at Xiao Budian speechlessly. Xiao Budian shrugged his shoulders, his face was as if it was a matter of course. Zhu Yi and the others all shook their heads and couldn't help but laugh. Strictly speaking, what the little guy said was indeed correct. There was no enmity between Yang Qing and Yu Hongyan, and their relationship as fellow disciples was not bad. If they truly weren't opponents, then there was no need for them to fight to the death. Entering the hidden dragon pot, Yu Hongyan smiled, fifth junior brother, get ready, I'm coming. Before her voice fell, her figure flashed, and she had already rushed in front of Yang Qing. The black flame halberd dragged a trail of flames, smashing towards Yang Qing's head like a meteor. Although it was a contest of skills, Yu Hongyan did not have the slightest intention of showing mercy. Her aura was fierce, and she directly attacked. Yang Qing also had some understanding of this swift and fierce senior sister. He knew that her style was to attack directly, to gain the upper hand by making the first move, and to suppress the opponent with an indomitable momentum. And with her straightforward character, don't expect her to give up the initiative, let Yang Qing attack first, and then fight back after Yang Qing showed her strength. If she did that, she would not be Yu Hongyan. Therefore, Yang Qing had already planned to defend and counterattack from the beginning, which was what he was best at. Flashing with colorful brilliance, Taiyin True Water appeared around him, facing Yu Hongyan's halberd. The All Things Follow the Heart lunar mantra was not only effective against spells, it was also effective against martial arts. When the lunar True Water came into contact with Yu Hongyan's black flame halberd, it began to imitate Yu Hongyan's transcendence energy. In the next moment, Yu Hongyan suddenly felt that she could no longer control the black flame halberd with ease, and her own power was in disorder. She knew that this was Yang Qing's magic, but she couldn't tell whether the power belonged to her or the spies sent by Yang Qing. All the power felt exactly the same. Even if she controlled her own power, she would still be affected by Yang Qing. The attack that could split mountains and rivers became light at this moment, and no longer had the power and momentum from before. It was disintegrated by Yang Qing. Yu Hongyan's subtle control of martial arts and power could be regarded as the top among Lin Feng's disciples, but Yang Qing would still find a loophole, which made her secretly admire in her heart. Fifth junior brother is usually quiet, but his magic is really difficult to deal with. Yu Hongyan's thin sword-like red eyebrows suddenly stood up, and there was a faint flash of fire in her eyes. She suddenly held the halberd tightly, and a strange and overbearing red light began to flicker all over her body. The strong wind shocked the sky, and countless evil spirits surged. She had already activated her own infinite gang sha. The halberd of black flames drew an arc in the air, wrapped in the infinite gang sha, and blasted towards Yang Qing with an even more ferocious power. Yang Qing used the All Yu Hongyan mantra again, but this time, she found that she could still imitate Yu Hongyan's own power, but she could not imitate the infinite gang sha that Yu Hongyan controlled. This discovery made Yang Qing slightly panic. He calmed down and understood in his heart, can't I imitate the power of the 4 divine winds? It seems that the 7 great true fires and 6 great true waters can't be imitated either. Yang Qing thought, I wonder if I can improve after I advance to the late stage of foundation establishment and condense the Tao cauldron? Yang Qing's mind was filled with questions, and her body floated backwards, dodging Yu Hongyan's attack. The All Yu Hongyan mantra could not block Yu Hongyan's infinite gang sha, and he lost the leeway to defend and counterattack. And this retreat immediately caused the momentum of Yu Hongyan's attack, which had been slightly interrupted, to rise again. Wave after wave of attacks attacked Yang Qing like a tide, making him dizzy. Under Lin Feng's tutelage, Yu Hongyan, who had the most combat experience, against Yang Qing, who had the least experience, let Yu Hongyan take the initiative, and Yang Qing basically could not fight anymore. Master is right. Indeed, one can learn something from failure. Perhaps because the opponent was a senior sister of the same sect, even though she was about to lose, Yang Qing's state of mind was still calm, and she was even actively thinking of countermeasures. In terms of changes, in terms of adaptability, I am definitely not senior sister's opponent. Even if I want to delay, it is impossible, senior sister will not give me this chance. I can only give it a try. Senior sister does not avoid challenges, and if I fight her head-on, she will definitely fight me head-on. Although there is not much chance of winning, it is better than losing without any ability to fight back. Thinking of this, Yang Qing mustered up her courage, and the mana in her body surged. She mobilized all the lunar true water that she could control, and with the lunar mountain flood incantation's magic treasure, she launched a counterattack, attacking Yu Hongyan head-on. Sure enough, Yu Hongyan smiled, not bad, you have some backbone. She did not dodge, but raised the black flame halberd high, and after merging with the infinite gang sha, it turned into a dazzling red flame storm, and met Yang Qing's final attack without retreating even half a step. In the booming sound, both of them were sent flying back at the same time. The result of this attack was a draw. Senior sister's cultivation level is high, I admit defeat. Yang Qing smiled slightly. She had already done her best, but she could only fight to a draw with Yu Hongyan. However, Yu Hongyan's strength was far from bottoming out. If she continued to pester him, she would not know what was good for her. To be honest, although Yu Hongyan's fighting style was domineering, she did not kill her junior brother. Otherwise, she would have used the Void Destruction Divine Spear, and Yang Qing would have been at a loss. Yang Qing had already done her best in this battle, and she had no regrets. The group of primordial spirit big shots watching the battle outside the pot also nodded. Yang Qing had indeed done her best. The disciples of Xianmen Tianzong were all extraordinary. If she had not encountered her senior sister, Yang Qing had a high chance of advancing to the next round. Zhu Yi sighed, it's a pity for fifth junior brother. If he was also at the late stage of Foundation establishment, he could at least force out 4th Junior Sister's Void Destruction Divine Spear, and the outcome would still be unknown. Xiao Budian complained, "This stupid draw is really bad. If he didn't draw our own people, no matter who the opponent was, 5th senior brother would definitely enter the top 4. Wang Lin shook his head lightly, "Not necessarily, that sure Xiaoqian is not simple." The other people in the top 8 of the Foundation establishment stage, whether it was Dao Yuding and Zamuzalo who had already finished their battles, or Shi Xiaoqian and the others who had not started their battles, looked at Yang Qing with a more serious gaze. Except for Shi Xiaoqian, who was relatively relaxed, the others asked themselves, what would the result be if they were in Yu Hongyan's position? After thinking about it rationally, no one dared to continue thinking about it. Now they were all glad that Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing were drawn together. If the 3 people from Xianmen Tianzong fought against the cultivators from the other 3 forces, would there be an incomparably terrifying scene? Would Wang Lin and the other 2 all advance to the top 4? Among the top 4, if Xianmen Tianzong occupied 3 spots, then the spell gathering that everyone participated in together would really become an internal exchange between Xianmen Tianzong. The Yuanying ancestors and the Golden Elixir elders of the major sects all looked at Lin Feng with a serious expression. He was the creator of Xianmen Tianzong, the man in purple with an indifferent expression, who had single-handedly created this powerful sect that had already begun to show its brilliance. After Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing came out of the hidden dragon pot, it was Shi Xiaoqian and the Purple Firmament Path's turn to enter. The people from the Purple Firmament Path all hoped that they could avenge their previous humiliation this time, but the final result disappointed them. Shi Xiaoqian still won and advanced to the top 4 with his head held high. However, this time, Shi Xiaoqian was forced to use his real skills. The Great Qin dynasty's top Dao technique was called the 5 Emperor True Dragon Scripture. When cultivated to the extreme, it would manifest the 5 elements Light Dragon Great Emperor's body. The 5 elements would circulate, and the true dragon would appear, dominating the entire Great Thousand World. Shi Xiaoqian had always used the Dao technique from the Red Dragon Imperial Book in the previous matches, but this time, he was forced to use his trump card. It turned out that apart from the Red Dragon Imperial Book, he had also cultivated the Yellow Dragon Imperial Book. At the same time, he had 2 great Dao techniques and had cultivated them successfully. For his age, his talent could be said to be extremely high. Lin Feng nodded as he watched. The Great Qin dynasty's royal family's younger generation is indeed full of talents. Shi Xiaoqian's performance was outstanding. Lin Feng saw Prince Anliang Shi Zongyue's face reveal a satisfied smile. It seems that Shi Xiaoqian is from the Prince Anliang bloodline. After the 3rd match ended, it was time for the last match of the top 8. In the Hua clan's camp, Hua Qin walked out expressionlessly. He looked coldly at Wang Lin, then directly flew into the hidden dragon pot. Wang Lin also had a cold expression. Without saying a word, he walked into the field and jumped into the hidden dragon pot. Lin Feng glanced at Azura Dao sovereign Hua Xiu, but found that Hua Xiu seemed to be indifferent to the match in front of him. His attention was more focused on the North Wind Sea. Inside the hidden dragon pot, Hua Qin looked coldly at Wang Lin. After watching the previous matches, I have to admit that the people from your Xianmen Tianzong are indeed very strong. Your 2 juniors are also very strong. But here comes the problem. They have such cultivation at the age of less than 20, but what about you? How old are you this year? 30, or 40? After so many years of cultivation, your cultivation still can't compare to your 2 younger siblings who are not even 20. Hua Qin unsheathed his long saber. Come, let me see if you have lived all these years like a dog. Chapter 288. Killing intent exploded from Hua Qin, intimidating everyone. Inside the hidden dragon pot, the green grass under Hua Chen's feet withered instantly. Their life force was obliterated by Hua Chen's killing intent. He pointed the long saber in his hand at Wang Lin, and his saber intent and killing intent locked onto Wang Lin. Then, Several black saber chis in the air flew towards Wang Lin. Wherever these black blade auras passed, they brought with them a murderous and deathly aura. It was ominous. Facing the blade auras, Wang Lin's expression was calm. Mana flowed around him and he suddenly entered the state of the Yellow Springs death state. This was a power that Wang Lin had never displayed in the past. Now that he was in the Yellow Springs death state, he was like the king of hell. His entire body was filled with the inky black aura of nirvanic death. The moment Hua Chen's murderous blade auras touched Wang Lin's mana, they disappeared without a trace. They didn't even make a ripple. The power of nirvanic death. Hua Chen's expression changed. If he was said to have killed his way out of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, then the current Wang Lin was the master of hell. I heard you came from hell. Wang Lin looked at him coldly. His eyes were as dark as the abyss. In the end, Hua Chen was a cultivator who had experienced bloody battles of life and death. His temperament and willpower were far stronger than that of ordinary Foundation establishment cultivators. Right now, it was more that his magic power cultivation was insufficient. In terms of temperament and willpower, he had almost broken through the difficulties of life and death and had the potential to form his core. Mocking Wang Lin before the battle started was more of a psychological tactic. Now that Wang Lin's strength was beyond imagination, Hua Chen didn't lose his will and courage. With a roar, he swung his blade and advanced. Shura killing technique, Shura in thunder. Kill, kill, kill. Hua Chen's murderous blade auras turned into dark clouds filled with thunder and lightning. They rolled towards Wang Lin. Wang Lin pointed coldly. Finger of the Yellow Springs, reincarnation. Reincarnation pointed. The 8 phenomena of heaven, earth, water, fire, wind, thunder, mountain, and lake appeared before Wang Lin. They arranged themselves according to the 8 trigrams and formed a ring of light. Hua Chen's Azura in thunder fell into the ring of light. The ring of light spun continuously, like the Yellow Springs River in the cycle of life and death. After swallowing the Azura in thunder, it released it in the opposite direction, attacking Hua Chen. However, this in thunder was very different from the one Hua Chen released before. It was infused with Wang Lin's own spiritual energy, and within the violent suppression, there was also a destructive force. Hua Chen's spiritual power intent realm was slaughter and death, while Wang Lin's spiritual power intent realm was destruction and nothingness, which was above his. Chen's mana intent realm was of death and death. With a muffled roar, Hua Chen was sent flying and fell to the ground. Just as he was about to turn over and get up, a great sense of terror suddenly enveloped his heart. It was as if the end of the world had arrived and all things were withering in despair. With a muffled roar, Hua Chen was sent flying. He landed on the ground and was about to get up. Suddenly, a huge sense of terror shrouded his heart. It was as if the end of the world was coming and everything was dying. In the distance, Wang Lin pointed his right index finger forward and said softly, "Finger of the Yellow Springs, Nirvana." Under the finger of Nirvana, everything turned into ashes and returned to Nirvana, no longer existing. It was not killing the opponent but directly erasing the opponent's existence from this world. At this moment, Hua Chen truly felt the threat of death. At the juncture of life and death, he mobilized all his mana. His face was distorted. His eyes flashed with anger, slaughter, blood, madness, and many other emotions. I didn't expect you to have cultivated such a terrifying spell. If you had already established your beer and advanced to the mid-stage of Foundation establishment, I would definitely die under this move. Hua Chen roared. But now, you can't kill me. The black chi of the blade suddenly retracted and formed a solid ball, enveloping Hua Chen. At the same time the black ball was formed, the surrounding space became distorted as if it was collapsing inwards with the black ball as the center. The powerful suction actually caused the space of death formed by Wang Lin's finger of Nirvana to shake. A large amount of death chi was sucked into the black ball. The black ball was densely covered with countless purple electric snakes that were clearly visible to the naked eye. They crisscrossed and were full of destructive power. Shura Annihilation Thunderstorm Killing Technique. Following Hu Chen's murmur, the black ball rapidly expanded outwards. Like a roaring tide, the black lightning forcefully exploded the space of death created by Wang Lin's finger of nirvana and continued to expand outwards. Outside the hidden dragon pot, the cultivators watching the battle were shocked. The Foundation establishment cultivators all had solemn expressions. The cultivators of the Hua clan have experienced bloody battles. They are indeed powerful. Their strength is outstanding. Even the cultivators of the Golden Elixir period were shocked. The strength Hu Qin displayed was enough to threaten the vast majority of early Golden Elixir period cultivators. On the northern militant imperial court side, the large man of the Golden Elixir period, Du Kun, said to Zamuzalo, who had yet to recover from his injuries, "Although you also defeated a disciple of the Hua clan, if you meet Hu Qin, you will most likely lose." Zamuzalo's face was pale as he nodded. He had been a bit rash when he ridiculed the Hua clan. Inside the hidden dragon pot, Hu Qin used a secret technique to release a torrential black lightning that roared and broke through Wang Lin's space of death chi. Die! He roared and was about to control the lightning to kill Wang Lin, but he suddenly found that the magic power of his Shura Annihilation Thunderstorm killing technique had suddenly disappeared. In the space, there was only a black and yellow road that extended far into the distance. Hu Qin blankly looked around. As far as he could see, there was only darkness. He looked down and saw that he was stepping on the black and yellow road. His mind was in a daze. Countless images flashed in front of him. Hu Qin could recognize some of the images. They were things that he had experienced in the past. There were some images that Hu Qin couldn't recognize. He couldn't remember them even if he searched his memory. However, there was a familiar feeling, as if he had experienced them himself. In his confusion, from the soil of the black and yellow road, countless white claws suddenly stretched out, wanting to drag his entire body into the ground. Hu Qin desperately wanted to resist, but it was as if he was in a nightmare. His struggles were weak and he could only watch helplessly as he was dragged into the ground. Suddenly, the scene in front of him changed. Wang Lin's cold face appeared in front of him. Before Hu Qin could react, he saw the ink-black power of death chi around Wang Lin suddenly condense into an incomparably huge palm. The 5 fingers spread open and heavily slapped towards him. Bang! With a muffled sound, Hu Chen's entire body was sent flying by Wang Lin's huge palm made of magic power. After spinning 720 degrees in the air, he fell to the ground like a rag. This was the result of the hidden dragon kettle's restriction automatically activating to protect him. Otherwise, Hu Qin would definitely be smashed into meat paste by Wang Lin's slap. Everyone outside the hidden dragon kettle looked at this scene in shock. They saw with their own eyes that after Wang Lin's finger of silence failed, he quickly replenished the road to the underworld spell as if nothing had happened. From the beginning to the end, he held the initiative in his hands. From the beginning, Hu Qin had no chance at all. He was completely suppressed by Wang Lin. His counterattack couldn't even obstruct Wang Lin. Instead, it only made Wang Lin's victory even more shocking and exciting. In the great Qin dynasty's crowd, Shi Shaoqian narrowed his eyes slightly. Only early-stage foundation establishment, in the Tianqi sect's camp, Fang Zhong said hatefully, Xianmen Tianzong passed again this time. Hu Qin, that piece of trash, can't even beat an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. His Hu family is just a so-so. A fellow disciple who usually didn't get along with him sneered. Didn't you still lose to a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator? Fang Zhong flew into a rage. You, at this moment, Dao Yuding suddenly spoke. Quiet. As soon as she said this, the other foundation establishment cultivators of the Tianqi sect all quieted down. Fang Zhong turned around and glared at that fellow disciple. He didn't say anything. The other party also didn't say anything else. He was actually just taking the opportunity to attack Fang Zhong. Everyone knew that the difference in magic power between late-stage foundation establishment and middle-stage foundation establishment was smaller than between middle-stage and early-stage foundation establishment. Above the Qi Si was a beer, and the magic power was more condensed. A cultivator's strength would increase by quite a bit. Above the beer was a pill cauldron, which was more of a preparation for core formation. The increase in cultivation strength was actually more limited. Seeing Wang Lin calmly come out of the hidden dragon pot, Great Qin Dynasty's King Anliang Shi Zongyue and Tao Master Chang'e quietly exchanged glances. The gazes of the two primordial soul powerhouses were rather complicated. Wang Lin's current strength naturally didn't attract their attention. What they cared about was that the disciples under Xianmen Tianzong all had different results in their cultivation of Taoist techniques. Moreover, all of them displayed admirable potential. So far, the three foundation establishment disciples who had already made their moves were Wang Lin, Yu Hongyan, and Yang Qing. Each of them had different characteristics. Although it could be seen that they all cultivated the same Taoist technique, the general direction was clear and there were traces to be found. They were indeed from the same sect. But looking at it in detail, the difference was really too big. Wang Lin comprehended the power of life and death. Yu Hongyan, with only the cultivation of foundation establishment, touched the edge of the mystery of space. Yang Qing, on the other hand, comprehended the profound truth of the transformation of all things. Although the three of them all cultivated the 8 diagrams of the Great Way of Heaven, the direction they took was completely different. It was like on a big tree, there were 3 completely independent branches. But it happened that their roots were from the same source. It was rumored that Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, and Tiny Tot, the 3 disciples of the Golden Elixir period, had different understandings of Taoist techniques. The fundamental Taoist technique of Xianmen Tianzong can actually be all-encompassing. At the same time, it integrates so many exquisite principles into one furnace. Moreover, they are all incomparably profound. This Taoist technique is really admirable. Tao Master Chang'e sighed and looked at the calm Lin Feng. To be able to create such a top Taoist technique, what kind of person is this master of Xianmen sect? Shi Zongyue also looked at Lin Feng with a rare dignified expression. The rise of Xianmen Tianzong really has its reasons. It was not created by chance. Chapter 289. Not only Shi Zongyue and Tao Master Chang'e, but several other primordial spirit powerhouses, as well as the Yuanying and Golden Elixir elders under their command, were observing Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong and the people behind him with complicated expressions. As the saying goes, seeing is believing. Usually, no matter how exaggerated the rumors were, most people did not believe it. However, after witnessing it with their own eyes today, everyone found that Xianmen Tianzong and his people were even more ferocious than the rumors said. Lin Feng took a look at his personal reputation and sect reputation displayed in the system and discovered that they both had different degrees of growth. This made him feel very comforted in his heart. The reason he brought his disciples to battle in a high-profile manner this time was to raise his reputation. After Wang Lin returned, Lin Feng smiled slightly and said, "Good job. Master, please correct me." A smile appeared on Wang Lin's cold face, and he regained his warmth. Lin Feng pointed out a few things that needed to be improved in his spells. Wang Lin listened carefully and kept nodding. After pointing out Wang Lin's spells, Lin Feng suddenly thought of something and looked at the horizon in the distance. There was a unique aura approaching the North Wind Sea. For Lin Feng, this aura itself was not very strong. At best, it was at the level of the late stage of Golden Elixir, but it was very unique. It was a kind of knowledgeable, full of knowledge, overflowing with talent that looked up to the world, respected the common people, and repelled ghosts and gods. It was very rare for a cultivator to have such an aura. Lin Feng's heart slightly moved. From the corner of his eyes, he saw Tao Master Chang'e stroking his beard and smiling. He said to Shi Zongyue, "He's coming." Shi Zongyue nodded slightly and said, "It's too late." Tao Master Changle laughed and said, he probably overslept, but it's not too late. Shi Zhongyue shook his head and sighed, it's this bad habit. The other primordial spirit experts had naturally discovered the presence of these people and were amazed. Seeing the reactions of Shi Zhongyue and Tao Master Changle, Lin Feng and the others were even more puzzled. Obviously, not only did Shi Zhongyue and Tao Master Changle know him, they were also very familiar with him. Moreover, from what they said, he was also going to participate in the Barren Sea Assembly. However, the problem was that even the few primordial divinity stage powerhouses had arrived on time, yet this person just had to be late. He was really putting on airs. Lin Feng and the others wouldn't go so far as to argue with a late golden elixir cultivator, but as the host, Shi Zhongyue and the others would undoubtedly be greatly disrespectful and would inevitably lose face. But looking at Shi Zhongyue, Tao Master Changle, and Tao Master Gamble, not only did they not get angry, but they even seemed to be biased towards this latecomer. This made people have no choice but to look at this latecomer in a new light. The others also noticed this person sooner or later. However, since the primordial spirit experts did not say anything, they naturally did not say much. Obviously, there were many private discussions. Lin Feng and the others looked at each other and remembered that when Shi Xingyun came over to greet them, he had mentioned that one person who was qualified to be Zhu Yi and Tiny Tot's opponent was not there at that time. Now it seemed that it was this person. Zhu Yi's expression was calm. He gently squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. There was already a figure appearing on the horizon, walking step by step towards the North Wind Sea. The person seemed to be moving very leisurely. Although he was late, he was still walking at a steady pace. The person seemed to be walking slowly, but in reality, the distance between his feet and the lakeside of the North Wind Sea was rapidly shrinking. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived in front of the crowd. However, looking at his movements and expression, he was still calm and composed. There was not the slightest hint of impatience or panic. What caught Zhu Yi's attention the most was that there was a faint pillar of qi above the person's head that led straight to the 9 heavens. The pillar of qi did not contain any magic power or spiritual qi. Instead, there were many faintly visible words. Upon closer inspection, one could see that these words formed a magnificent article. Great Qin Dynasty's new top scholar. Zhu Yi smiled slightly. Not bad at all. As he got closer, the crowd took a closer look at the person's appearance. They saw that he looked to be in his 20s or 30s. He was dressed in a long, dark robe with a green robe over it. He wore a silk scarf on his head and looked like a scholar. His every movement was full of scholarly aura. His appearance was not particularly handsome. He did not appear masculine, but he was not feminine either. He was simply very refreshing and amiable. When the young scholar arrived at the lakeside of the North Wind Sea, he bowed to the crowd and said in a friendly voice, I am Jiao Junchen. Greetings, seniors and fellow cultivators. He smiled somewhat embarrassedly, but his tone was very calm. I was greedy before and didn't want to oversleep. That's why I'm late. I apologize to everyone here. This person's attitude was so calm that it made those who wanted to criticize him unable to find any words to say. It was impossible for Jiao Junchen to make up a lie in front of several primordial soul realm experts. As he said, he really overslept. However, this rather nonsensical reason really made everyone not know whether to laugh or cry. Since you overslept, then you might as well not come. Someone almost blurted out. However, looking at Jiao Junchen's calm appearance, they knew that Jiao Junchen would most likely not care even if they said it. It was even possible that he would not participate in the spell assembly and directly go back to sleep. Of course, Shi Zhongyue and the other primordial soul realm experts of the Great Qin dynasty would certainly not allow him to do so. From their current protective attitude, unless Lin Feng, Tao Master Lan Ting, and the others investigated, this matter would only be left unsettled. The other primordial soul realm experts naturally would not lower themselves to Jiao Junchen's level. Instead, they all looked with interest at this cultivator of the golden elixir period who was even more arrogant than them. Others might not be able to tell, but they could all see that this young scholar was extremely close to nature. His every movement actually gave off a feeling that was close to the Tao. Tao Master Changle coughed dryly. Junchen, stand in the line. Next, we will draw lots for the top 4 in the foundation establishment stage. Jiao Junchen smiled and nodded. He walked in the direction of the great Qin dynasty's camp. Shi Xingyun stood in front of the line and shook his head with a smile. Have you slept enough? Actually, I'm almost there. Jiao Junchen said and yawned. It was a rather rash action, but when he did it, it did not seem rude. Shi Xingyun looked in the direction of the celestial sect 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 over there. The young man in the purple robe is Zhu Yi, the second disciple of the master of Xianmen sect, and also the son of the great Zhou dynasty's Marquis of Xuanji, Zhu Hongguo, and the previous Taoism world wayfarer, Meng Bingyun, Fairy Meng of Taishu Temple. Hearing this, Jiao Junchen's eyes lit up. The sleepiness in his eyes disappeared. I'll go say hello. Shi Xingyun smiled. Go ahead. When I mentioned you to them before, Zhu Yi also said that even if he can't compete in Tao techniques, he can still exchange knowledge with you. That still depends on how much knowledge he has. Jiao Junchen laughed and turned to walk towards Zhu Yi. Sensing Jiao Junchen's movements, Lin Feng turned to look at Zhu Yi. He saw that Zhu Yi's gaze was also fixed on Jiao Junchen. Arriving in front of the crowd, Jiao Junchen first bowed to Lin Feng. Junior Jiao Junchen greets the master of Xianmen sect. Lin Feng nodded and did not say anything. At this moment, Jiao Junchen straightened his body and looked at Zhu Yi. After sizing him up curiously, he asked, "You're also a scholar?" The concept of a scholar may sound vague, but to Zhu Yi and Jiao Junchen, it was clearly a very clear concept. Zhu Yi looked at him and nodded. That's right. Unexpectedly, Jiao Junchen's face revealed a very regretful expression. You're not good enough. I think it's better for me to compete in Tao techniques with you. There's not much meaning in exchanging knowledge with you. Hearing this, Lin Feng almost burst out laughing. Well, for Zhu Yi, this is a blatant mockery. Sure enough, when Zhu Yi heard this, his eyebrows slightly raised. He did not say anything and looked at Jiao Junchen with a faint smile. Jiao Junchen calmly looked at Zhu Yi and said very seriously, "You have today's cultivation level, just like other cultivators, by devoting yourself to hard work. Your talent is amazing, and you're only in your early 20s. In terms of cultivation, your talent is very high, ridiculously high. But your knowledge is not good enough. A true scholar reads, keeps his spirit, nourishes his qi, and understands the big truths of heaven and earth, not the small Tao of spells. Although you don't practice Tao techniques, you understand the truth of heaven and earth like cultivators." Jiao Junchen glanced at Zhu Yi. A true scholar, if he doesn't speak, then he will amaze the world with a single brilliant feat, 10 years of studying hard, but one day he will understand the Tao. Normally, he doesn't practice Tao techniques, but once he starts to absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, he will immediately step into a realm that ordinary people can't reach in their entire lives. The ancient sages never practiced Tao, but only read and learned. Once they have a sudden impulse, they will directly swallow a golden elixir. Hearing Tao in the morning, comprehending in the evening, forming the golden elixir in the morning, facing the thunder tribulation in the evening, achieving Yuanying in one day. He looked at Zhu Yi and kept shaking his head. You're a talented cultivator, but you're not a scholar. I'm interested in competing in spells with you, but I'm not interested in competing in knowledge. After listening to him silently, Zhu Yi asked lightly, "Oh?" Nurturing one's qi, preserving one's spirit, understanding, and accumulating one's qi is not necessarily crooked. However, I wonder how far you've progressed. Shi Xingyun had also arrived in front of him. He smiled and said, Brother Jiao, before participating in the imperial examination of the Great Qin dynasty last year, you did not have any qi cultivation base at all. However, after the fall quarter examinations, your literary talent soared to the sky and you reached the late stage of the golden elixir overnight. Jiao Junqin sighed regretfully. I'm slow-witted. I can't be compared to the ancient sages. His tone was sincere, and he truly felt regretful from the bottom of his heart. He did not sound like he was showing off at all. However, when he said it under such circumstances, it sounded very pretentious. Scholars really do despise each other. Lin Feng looked at his own disciple going head-to-head with Jiao Junqian and couldn't help but laugh and shake his head, his gaze landing on Jiao Junqian. So it's the successor of the ancient Confucian path. I originally thought that this branch of orthodoxy had already been severed. A hint of surprise flashed in Shi Xingyun's eyes. On the other hand, Jiao Junqian tidied his clothes and straightened his expression. He then bowed toward Lin Feng. Master of the Celestial Sect, you have a sharp eye. I'm indeed the successor of the Confucian sect. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.